All right. What's up, everybody? How you doing out there? Welcome back to the show. This is last week's fights. My name is Thinker St. James, and tonight we are going over each and every fight from UFC Fight Night, Burns versus Malott, taking a look and giving our predictions for the upcoming UFC Fight Night, Sterling versus Zalal. To do all of that with me, as always, the man, myth, and legend. You know him, you love him. He's the Ohio player. He is a man who renounced his U.S. citizenship the second he saw Melissa Croden, Mr. Chase Parton. How are you, brother?
Dude, I am very, very good. It is a Monday. We had fights on Saturday. They were, of course, something to talk about. So I'm very excited to get into them. Of course, this will be a very good one. I'm very, very happy to be here.
Absolutely, indeed. Fights were fun. Card was okay. We'll talk about everything, give our predictions coming up as well. Any other non UFC fights that you partake in this week, Chase, this past week?
We had a very good stream on Thursday night. I don't know if anybody was out there that was listening, but you guys should go ahead and go check it out. We had a very good stream with the 10-7 crew. And then on Friday there was no one championship, unfortunately, so I did not get to catch that because there was anything to catch. But I got to sleep in, so that was very nice. So what about you?
Well, yeah, no, I mean, definitely. If you missed out on the free for all that we did with the 10-7 guys, definitely check that out. That was a lot of fun. Very cool to hang out with those guys and hear their thoughts about everything. Glad you got to get a little bit of sleep. A little bit strange that one championship was not on, but there's a lot going on in one championship right now, as we've been talking about external to the show. But no, the what I watched this week was Cage Fury FC. I got to finally watch CFFC, which seems like it should have been something that was watched a long time ago, right? I mean, that's a pretty standard feeder organization for the UFC, which was interesting to see how they cover that because they are very open about how people go straight from there into the UFC. They've got like power rankings for all of that. Either way, I had never watched it before. Finally got to watch that. Really enjoyed that. So shout out to CFFC. And of course, they do shows in Florida pretty regularly. So I need to get myself out to see that in person at some point.
Oh, absolutely. And last night you had a stream as well, right? And you did a watch along for some fights.
RWS always, yes. Sunday nights is Muay Thai Sundays, is a lot of the weeks anyway, as many times as I can, barring external factors. And we had a bunch of super fights. There's a dude named Daniel Rodriguez in RWS. Not the UFC one, of course, but another man also with the same name who is an absolute beast. This guy is now 50-1, champion of the organization, put on a master class, 2 nights ago. We do it as a replay watch, but yeah, watched it last night. Absolutely fantastic.
And to those out there who are tuning in from the Tijuana prison, no, that is not the dude who got released a couple weeks ago. No, that's not
Correct.
him.
Yes, exactly. No, two different people. Although that Daniel Rodriguez apparently is going to be doing something with Combate Global now. He's on the Foos Fighting Network. There's some stuff going on at Combate. There's an Instagram channel involved. I'm not aware of all of the details just yet.
Where's his goddamn track? I want to listen to the music. Where is this at? Daniel Rodriguez, you're hearing me right now. Where's the music, dog? Apple Music, Spotify, SoundCloud, just some random file on your phone. Like, bro, give me the link. Like, what's the deal? Like,
You're
come on.
making a great point there. We were talking about music and MMA on the stream on Sunday, actually, or actually, I think it was on the Cage Fury stream, because Keith Peterson was one of the referees at Cage Fury. And apparently, he was the lead singer in several punk bands back in the day. Did not know this. This is news to me. So, Keith Peterson, I've very well aware, been aware of Bryce Mitchell and his rapping abilities. And I believe that there was one more that came up, and I'm forgetting it off the top of my head. But the point is that numerous mixed martial arts and mixed martial arts adjacent individuals are musicians, and I want to hear it all. So, I mean, we need to just get a big influx. Guys, if you are out there, if you're a fighter and you're making music as well, I need to hear this.
Yeah, I definitely would like to see Bryce Mitchell, Keith Peterson, Daniel Rodriguez, and then some other people, and they'd be like the village people of the UFC. This would be great.
Collab of the century. I love that idea.
Hmm.
And Keith Peterson apparently, he was like hardcore kind of stuff. So like he could do like some, the hardcore vocals and then some rap stuff on top of that, maybe some like Linkin Parkish kind of stuff going on. I think this is a great idea that has legs.
I mean, the vocals, I mean, if he was into some metal, I mean, you're killing the idea. He definitely would nail it. You listen to his voice, he literally like chews on cigarettes probably. It's
That's
crazy.
just how you think it got that way. I mean, all those years of screaming.
It does add up now. That's pretty crazy.
But yeah, so I mean, I guess we're gonna have to find out, what these bands were and see if we can find some of that music. But at some point in the future, maybe some reviews of that would be kind of cool. Maybe.
Hell yeah. And Daniel Rodriguez, I'm not kidding. Where's the music?
Absolutely. Well, we got one track from him. We got his own walkout song, and then never again. So yes, we absolutely need to hear these tracks unencumbered, unadulterated.
He did not, show clips of it. Obviously, he showed most of his training while he was in prison or jail, whatever the case may be. I'm sure he was writing down some music too, dog. Let's hear what you got in it. When you thought you were down bad, I want to hear what the soul was writing for you.
For real. I mean, some of the greatest rap of all time was written inside prison in very similar circumstances. So,
Yep.
yeah, you're exactly right. Speak from the soul and give the people what they want. We're craving this.
Yeah, absolutely. Love
All
it.
right. Well, fair enough. So yeah, that was the stuff outside of the UFC. I mean, I guess is there any other major stuff we need to talk about before we get into this card?
Shamrock has been released from the UFC.
Well, if there isn't anything more major than that, good lord, guys, a moment of silence for the one, the only, the great Shamrock. We never found out what his crazy backstory was. Chase, remember, he was this guy who was on the lam, he was on the run. Him and D Rod could have had a caper together at some point if things were a different world.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what's crazy? Now we will never find out his backstory.
Yeah, we'll find it out through various clips of other organizations. Maybe PFL will do an expose on him.
True, maybe, but I do not think so. Yeah, nobody's really gonna. Oh, that and they reposted that infamous clip where he was, who do I look like, Patchy Mix, brother? Like, come on now. So
Resemblance is uncanny.
yeah,
Well, fair enough. Yeah, no, no, great loss there, I would say, but it is surprising because I mean, I would have thought would have been on a 3-fight contract, but sometimes it just be like that, man. You end up the cut.
true.
So, all right. Well, if that is all that we want to get in the front of this thing, then I guess we can get into this card. Why not? No time like the present. This is, of course, UFC Fight Night Burns versus Malott. Excuse me. It took place at the Canada Life Center in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. That is a place that is very cold and up north. Chase, what did you think of this card on paper?
On paper, um, on paper, I didn't hate this card. A lot of, again, maybe I'm just a true favorite of the sport, or I love the favorites of the sport. I'm a true fanatic because listen, the prelim guys really ring to me when I see some of these names. Jamie Lynn Horth, Mark Volagdine. Anybody else, Melissa Croden. Anyway, you want to see it, Robert Valentine. I see names like this and like this is a good card to me, but I can understand that a lot of people would see this and be like, Robert Valentine, a guy who's lost like damn near every fight. This is the guy that you think makes the card good. It's like, well, you're not understanding. There's context to it. And we'll obviously talk about some great context to the story. But this card for me on paper, it was decent. Canada kind of does they get some pretty good stuff. I kind of appreciate it. And to the point, this is not to the on paper point. I'll let you go. But this crowd, I love the atmosphere that Winnipeg brought. This was really good. They were quick to boo and they were booing when it wasn't even necessary, and that got everybody on their toes. I love it. So go
Yeah,
on.
well, no, I was glad to hear that the crowd was getting into things, considering that I don't know exactly how true this is, but we were talking last week about the Miami card being undersold, and apparently this was a very undersold event. A lot of open tickets for this one. Now, granted, we were hearing from some of our Canadian friends about why that might be. Apparently, Winnipeg is not necessarily the greatest part of Canada. There's economic factors and crime and different elements that might make that why it is. But either way, generally the UFC is able to roll into anywhere and normally at least almost sell out a venue. This one, it was looking like there were tickets up in the rafters for like $45, which is pretty unusual. So, it was good to see that the crowd did still come out, even if there were open seats and whatnot. And for me, I mean, on paper, I thought that this was a pretty decent card, not the greatest I'd ever seen. The only thing that stuck out to me was the main event. I did not necessarily think that the two people that were in the main event were necessarily main eventers at current. But I think overall, looking at the card, I did not see anything that I was like, man, this is going to be terrible. And I think that maybe because of that, it might have delivered even more than I thought it was going to.
The only thing that I'm really, wanting to say about everything that you said, back to the ticket prices.
Yes.
If you guys are hearing me right now, when you hear the next date for a Canada card, book you a little 4-day vacation, go out there, $45, go fucking watch some UFC. You have nobody near you apparently. So you'll just have to be able, you can kick your feet up, even if there's somebody in front of you, you can kick the shit out of them, and like, you can just relax, watch you some fights for very cheap, and enjoy a weekend in fucking Canada.
Scenic Manitoba. That's a scenic Winnipeg.
Right.
And who wouldn't want to be vacationing there?
Well, it's not even about, scenic, yes. Just go experience a new biome, guys. If you're not even from, if you are the type of person that would take a plane and just go somewhere to experience something, you have an opportunity, go experience a new location, new people, new culture, new animals, new atmosphere, and you'll get cheap UFC and you're just vacationing with UFC. Like, if you do it right, I think this is a very good opportunity. This is good
Yeah,
value.
yeah, I say I don't dislike this idea, especially if you know that there's a card that's going to be something like a situation like this. Yeah, you can really spend your money a lot worse than going out and doing exactly what you just described. So I think it's a good idea, Chase.
Hell yeah. Appreciate
All
it.
right. Yeah. Well, then, lastly, before we actually get into the fights, shout out to Lachlan hanging out with us, brother. Appreciate you always, Lachlan. You are the man. Yeah, with that said, let's start talking about some of these fisticuffs here. Starting off with the first fight of the evening, Jamie Siraj versus Mr. John Giannis. Now, of course, we do predictions every week. We did not know who Mr. Siraj was, but John Giannis, we were a little familiar with. I guess this is one of those ones that, based on just a little bit of the context of what we already had, kind of made the right call unknowingly, because everybody, it seemed, a lot of our peers in the prediction space were all piling on this Jamie Siraj person.
And it's very unfortunate because this is clearly one of those situations where a lot of bettors saw favorite. He's Canadian in Canada. He's the betting favorite. Boom, I'm laying my money down. Who is John Giannis? He's got 4 losses. If you have listened to this podcast, I even back when he was on Contender Series, I'm pretty sure I even said it. This dude has got something. He's got something. Not everybody's a great fighter. Not everybody's the most skilled. Not everybody's this, the most defensive that. Whatever. John Giannis has something called the X factor. He does just sometimes. The name doesn't. It's an invisible type of name. It's a guy that you'd never suspect, but then he comes on and puts on a performance that you're never going to forget because this guy Jamie, when you hear him walk out and the story that is being told to you about his troubling history, recent history too. It's not just like when he was growing up. This was told to you as something that has happened very, very recently. This guy he was medically induced into a coma for an amount of time. The way they told the story, it actually was pretty. Listen, Brendan Fitzgerald, whoever was doing the little commentary, they was like, he said goodbye to his family and they put him under, and he wasn't sure if he was going to wake up. I was like, all right, man, this would be one hell of a story to win. John Giannis, you were just that type of guy to fucking ruin this fucking party, though. All these bettors saw a heavy favorite of a Canadian in Canada, but they didn't understand that he was, unfortunately, and I hate to say it this way, he was the Make-A-Wish kid for the fucking card. And it's just the facts of the matter. Like, they put him in there with the hopes that he would make a really big comeback against a guy who's potentially not that great if you think about it, but had a big moment and really was able to just shut the crowd up. But not a lot of people would ruin that dude's moment. You got to be a dude who believes you're going to be the best in the world one day if you're going to ruin this dude's moment like that. You're not going to go out fucking sad. So,
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's obviously I'm very sympathetic to his story, of course, but it's an easy trap to fall into. I was saying, thinking that the hometown guy is going to come out, open the card in the hometown, and be a world ender. John Giannis is here to spoil the party, unfortunately, and spoil it. He did. I mean, you say that you got to be a certain type of guy to come and do that. I mean, he was doing it consistently throughout the entirety of this round. I mean, this was Siraj gets dropped early in this fight. Giannis gets a few on the ground, that he disengages, and then it's just more of that. I mean, really in different various variations of it. I mean, Giannis with a nice knee to the body into the counter right. There was a couple of different sequences in this very short fight. I mean, 2 minutes and 43 seconds total of this first round is all that was needed for this. But that sequence when it's finally started to get up there was a really nice combo there. And I mean, I felt so bad for Siraj after the shots started to become more consistent for Giannis, because he had the instincts, which in theory would have been correct. He tried to level change, but then ends up essentially taking himself down. Giannis turns it into its takedown for himself and just obliterates him with elbows. It was like, oh, this is not a great thing to see from, for the hometown guy, but for John Giannis, this is exactly what you want to see.
Yeah, if I recall, this is Keith Peterson that was reffing this, correct?
I don't recall.
Because this one, I want to correct me if I'm wrong, chat. If you're even out there, chat's a little dead tonight. I'm gonna make the
Yeah.
comment, but this one right here, I believe this is one of those rare cases where it was like chef's kiss on the ref's finish. Keith Peterson really did showcase like why he's one of the top. Obviously they all have their moments, but right here, I remember thinking, don't fucking stop it. Don't let him look like you fucking saved him on his way out kind of deal. And then, the elbows started coming and I'm like, oh fuck, you gotta just fucking end this, dude. I mean, come on. And then Keith Peterson stepped in and it was a great finish from John. But Jamie busted up, unfortunately a sad story, but this is a guy who I've personally never seen compete against a guy who we know contender series guys are dangerous. That's their whole thing, is like they're here to just gun and just get in and get out. Like that's what they got to do. They're at the point in life where they don't have many more options. Like they have that one dead end job that they're at and it's like, all right, fuck it, let's go to the fucking UFC. But this guy, I think, again, this goes, another story of a guy who spent time in prison, I believe, is what the story was on Contender Series for John Giannis. I think I brought this up last week, but I'm not positive. I believe so.
Mhm.
If that is true, he fought like he was not ready to go back. So I appreciate him. He's looking good.
Yeah, I mean, I said that Giannis looked pretty damn good in this one-sided affair. I also said I don't know if it was Keith or if it was one of the local refs, because we did have a number of local Canadian refs, and we can talk about some of them coming up. But either way, I'd said it's like it wasn't an early stoppage. It was probably the exact right time to stop it when it was stopped. It only felt slightly early only because it was so quick in the sequence, but that's what was warranted. So
Mm.
you can't really be too mad at it. Siraj wasn't protesting it. It just kind of does hurt with all of those other details in play. And then Giannis on the microphone, he's got a little personality to him. You can hear the Texas in him for real. I didn't expect that coming out of him, but yeah, he's got a little bit of that Texas twang, and he had a lot to say.
When he got on the mic, I instantly looked at his profile because I was like, wait a minute, did I overlook that he trains with Josh Fan? He does not. But it's probably it's in Texas somewhere, close enough. He fights. He's got the hands. Let me just put it that way. So, and actually, to your point about the Canadian referees, just to make an overarching point before we talk about them individually, I could never have seen a group of people who look like they've never watched martial arts in my fucking life. And I'll leave it at that, man. That just made me so mad watching them come out.
Well, and yeah, I mean, and I'll just kind of leave it as a teaser. But one of them that we're going to talk about, I've known for quite some time. I remembered his name before seeing him in the situation that we're going to talk about, and I was very surprised to see what I saw out of that guy specifically, because there were a number of ones that I was not familiar with. This one I was familiar with, and I'm like, bro, I've seen you do better. How is this what we are seeing currently?
True.
We'll talk about it when we get to it. But anything else on Siraj and Giannis?
Big upset for John Giannis. This was, if you guys keep up with the UFC predictions tracker, shout out that channel. They are awesome over there. We are two of like the five people to take John Giannis on the graphic. So I give us a little round of applause
Yeah,
because this was a big brain pick. Apparently, they took a guy who was in a coma last year or something like that. I hate to say it, but like you could, that's stuff that I when you talk about, they always do that. They'll walk somebody out and they'll, be like, this guy had spent the last 2 years doing nothing with his life. He's never even been in the gym. And it's like, why didn't you know this before the fight? And it's like,
yeah,
that's
all the stuff that comes out in the fighter meetings, we're only finding out about now.
right. And I think that's why Contender Series, like, I think what's cool about that in that regard is the most important things about their life story you already know because they threw it in the video package when you watched
Right.
them come out. So I know John Giannis, I know his whole story so far. Anything else is just what I have to learn. Jamie Siraj, I've never fucking seen this dude. Like, I don't know he's been in a coma. He's literally been in a coma. I'm sorry. Like,
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, and look, sometimes those guys end up going on to do great things. It's not like
true.
it's a tried and true, fail safe that it's going to be that way. But unfortunately, not the time for Mr. Siraj. We'll see if we end up seeing him back, perhaps. But uncertain right now. Either way, I'm glad I switched at the last minute, right at the buzzer beater switch of my pick for this one because of A, getting that one correct now in the hindsight, and then B, being that it was one of the very few that I did get correct on this card. Another time that my predictions were very poor.
Hell yeah. No, you're good, man. This was a good pick.
All right. Well, let's move on to the next one here. This was one that I think we had a little bit of a difference of opinion, so I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this. This is John Castaneda versus Mark Vologdin. So Vologdin, I mean, just to kind of tip the hand on this, this turned out to be a majority draw, and we can get into why that was. But I remember at one point on the watch along, I saw you come in and say that, oh, Vologdin is the real deal. And it's not like I'm trying to say that I didn't see the same toughness that we saw out of him on the Contender Series certainly did show here. But I saw some noticeable holes in the game that were kind of glaring towards the end of this fight. And that was when you came in. So I'm curious to hear your rundown of this, and maybe we can compare notes.
I really do like Volagdin, and I'm not, again, it's not because you have to be the best, you have to be this, you have to be that. Mark Volagdin has it though. Like, it's not the it, but I mean, he has something. Like, you can't really, I mean, he's tough as fucking, like, dude, the day that he drops, I mean, that person is gonna go over like a motherfucker, you know. But like, this guy, one, is as tough as they come. But another thing that is just so interesting about him, guys, he's fucking 5'3", like, and I don't know, it's crazy to think about because he really does look it. You know, when you see other people like Josh Van, obviously is a shorter, flyweight, but he's 5'4", guys. And imagine him matched up with Volagdin right now, and you'd be like, Josh Van's taller than this motherfucker. Like, what the hell?
I was saying the same thing about Castaneda. I mean, he looked short compared to Castaneda, and he's a short guy.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. Volagdin is just so tough, and he never stops throwing. And it's listen, it's not it's not the greatest performance. It's not the grittiest thing ever. I'm surprised he didn't get, just bloodied up again. I thought the scar tissue would have just been built up after that first fucking fight, where you got a hole in his fucking face. But the catch weight, obviously there are some questions to be had about what happened here. Who was the one not feeling well? People are trying to tell me John Castaneda wasn't feeling well. Brother, he looked like he was fucking $1 million out there. I don't know. That was like probably the best performance I've ever seen him have. Like,
No, well, that's a good point to bring up is that this was a catch weight, and we've talked about this a little in the Discord, but maybe this is something that I need to get further clarification on, or I don't know if there actually is an answer. But why are some fights catch weight when somebody is not feeling well or has a bad weight cut or whatever, and other fights just sorry, Charlie, you have to forfeit part of your purse, and that's just that. You know what I mean? Like, it's like sometimes we'll see it where I guess they just both agree to it, and that's fine. And then other times it's just like one person gets dinged, and then they have to give part of their purse over. I don't understand why it's selective like that.
mhm. No, I definitely agree with you. But back to the fight. Back
Yeah.
to the
So
fight
sorry.
specifically.
I want to make that point, but go ahead.
The thing about this fight, though, that I think is more interesting, when you get to the second round, you really start to see John Castaneda. Like, it ain't dirty because obviously they're in the switch stance, but like, this dude loaded up a full kick and just kicked him right in the dick. Like, it was to the point where Volagdin like hopped around, like the guy, he's like, ooh, hoo, hoo, hoo. Like, it was
Yeah.
very comical for how bad of a shot it was. And then obviously we had a nut shot before that, I believe, and then we get the actual full on kick, which led
Correct.
to a point being taken. Which,
Right.
when you go to the round and the scoring of it, yes, there is a point being deducted, but I still personally, in the moment, I gave round one to Volagdin. I gave round two. Like, bro, he was cheating to win the round. Like, I don't think it's crazy to think about that. Like, you would give him the round when he's actively cheating to do it.
Well, but
Like, I
that's what the
know they
point
took the,
deduction is for. Yeah.
but like, that's again when it goes back to the flaw in the system. It's like, bro can cheat all he wants, if and like, you're still gonna like gauge, be like, oh yeah, he did more damage. He might have poked him in the eye, but he got a point taken. But he gouged his eye out, and now he can't see for the rest of the fight. So I mean, he's fucking blunt. Fair play to him. Now he's gonna fucking lose. And obviously that goes back to the Tom Aspinall
That's what
situation.
I was gonna say. I mean, it's like you can't have that as your mindset and then be upset with that, though.
But the point is, John Castaneda was blatantly doing illegal maneuvers. It wasn't
Well,
on purpose, but they were
right.
illegal. They got the point taken. And Mark Volodin was doing a great job of fighting through adversity. And towards the end of the round, he was doing a lot of great stuff. There was about 30 seconds left. I actually think because I believe you when you would say that John Castaneda was winning the round. Sure, but he was actively doing things that were not, inside the rule book, I would say. Then about 31 seconds left. There's like a flurry that happens. Mark Volodin throws a rolling thunder, right? And it like kicks fucking Castaneda in the back of the head. It's not like the craziest thing ever. It like obviously just hits him and he like falls on him. But when you're watching it live, you're like, he just fucking knocked him down with a rolling thunder. Holy shit, this dude is the king of the sport right now. And so like in my mind, he knocks him down, of course. They get back up and then he finishes with a big flurry. I'm like, Mark Volodin just won the fucking round. Like he just won right now. And in live contention, like that's what the judges would be viewing. They'd be like, boom, like he did it right there, like just like I would have. They obviously didn't, but like that's how I would feel watching it. So when I came into your stream and I said he won round 1 and 2, I bro, he knocked him down with a rolling thunder. Like what the fuck? Like
I mean,
that's
did
how
he
I was
actually go
feeling in the
down
moment.
off the rolling thunder? I don't remember him actually going down to the ground.
Well, because he like flipped, right? And then John Castaneda like turned around. And so like
Ah,
he landed on his leg. So like his leg like bent and like he just like went
okay.
down. Like it wasn't a drop, but like in the moment you would look at that and be like, bro, he just fucking he did a rolling thunder kick because like the kick landed. I mean, it landed somewhere, but it didn't fucking knock him down with it.
Yeah,
But he
grazing
landed
shot.
on him, and you'd be like, "Oh my god, he fucking did it!" The craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. He Justin Gaethje'd him. Like Justin Gaethje learned from him. I don't know.
Yeah, well, fair enough. I mean, I think that the issue for me was like, like early on in the fight, I would give you like most of those points that like Volagdin, like he will certainly rise to the occasion. That's what I'm like I noticed about him after, especially after the rewatch. Like he will meet you at the level that you were bringing to the fight, and that was what like was the most prevalent point to me. I felt like he was just too hesitant to initiate himself a lot of the times. Like Volagdin, just the general note was that he was way too reactive as opposed to being proactive. And in the second round, there were some really great exchanges, but that's because Castaneda decided he was opening up, and also probably because he had the point deducted, so he knew he had to go that extra mile. Volagdin certainly met him there, but like by the end of the fight, like there were some moments where Castaneda was kind of teeing off by the end of that round, and I'm like, Volagdin seems like he might have a little bit of that Felicia Spencer syndrome, where he's just a tough punching bag. And I would not have said that after the first fight that we saw of him in the Contender Series. This fight, I was expecting a little bit more go out and get it, and I don't think that I necessarily got that from him.
You know what I find interesting, and I guess I've never really thought about it until now. So when somebody gets a point deducted, right?
Yeah.
Now they're down, and now you have your opponent potentially compromised of some sort. Now you have the person who committed the foul in a state where they're more and potentially more aggressive, more willing to finish. Now you have a more deadly, offender, and then they go beat the fuck out of the person who's compromised. How is this not a flaw in the system here? Fuck the point. It's like they can just go finish their compromised opponent and it just not even fucking matter at
Oh
the
no,
end of the day.
absolutely. No. You're exactly right. It's totally a flaw in the system. I mean, that's exactly correct. You can literally foul your opponent into the point of being incapacitated as long as you don't get DQ'd and go out there and then finish the fight thereafter. And it's like we
Nice.
literally saw that. We saw that. I swear it was in Macau. I believe it was on the last Macau card. There was the dude who I might have even been
The Korean Zombie Junior.
might have been. That might have been it. It was either him or our dude who fought Bahamundes. One of the two of those. But it was because I remember him being a dirty guy, a dirty fighter as well. Probably not him then. Maybe it was the Korean guy. But that sounds correct. But the point is that I believe it was on the Macau card, and it was a dude who literally like nut shotted several times and then ended up finishing the fight. And it was like, great victory, bro. I mean, like you end up basically fouling yourself into oblivion, and then yeah, you get the win because the guy physically is unable to fight any longer, and you just kind of walk away with it.
But at the end of the day, it goes back to the original point that I've made. Some fighters are just that way. I'm not going to say John Castaneda falls into that pool of
No,
region.
yeah.
He definitely is not one of those. But fighters know that they can get away with a certain amount of things, and they are able to use them to their advantage. Unfortunately, as male fighters, you have an appendage that is very, very painful when you get hit, and Mark Volodin took two powerful shots. The first one, he actually shrugged off very, very quick. He must have had that steel tie cup. Joe Rogan probably would have been really, really proud.
Yeah, there were many moments that Rogan would have been happy about on this card, and he was not there for them, of course, because it was out of the country. But yeah, no,
Neither
you're
was
right.
Bruce.
What's that?
Neither was Bruce.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's funny that you said. I didn't say it on the watch along, but I did notice. Yeah, that they so such a lack of love for Winnipeg that Joe Martinez got rolled out for those guys. I'm surprised they didn't like find some third string, but
True.
either way, yeah, no, I definitely don't think the Castaneda is like a dirty fighter. I think he was trying to go a little bit more intense. And it just happened to be the way that it goes. But again, intention doesn't necessarily matter. It should be the fact that you inflicted the damage and it changes the course of the fight. Both of the low blows were pretty direct impact. So
True.
I think that this actually, for all of the criticisms that we have of the refereeing lately, and trust me, I have so many of them, I thought that this was handled pretty well. This was, I believe, Jason Herzog that was doing this one. And I
Yes,
thought,
absolutely.
yeah, and I thought that he handled it right. One shot is a warning, the next one is the point deduction. He did that correctly, and I also thought that based on what we saw out of both of these guys, I thought the 28-28 was correct. I thought that this was a warranted draw. Sadly, I said Volodin is tough, but needs to take the reins earlier and for longer. That's really the only big note that I have. And that could be that he's still working his way into being comfortable in the UFC. Maybe there's some element of that, perhaps. But it is a little crazy to think that he went from a fight of the year with Martinetti on the Contender Series and did not have that same level of output potentially in this, but also he was not pushed to that same level with his opponent.
First off, to that point, I mean, for fight of the year contention, this is nowhere close. But I
Right.
mean, it could be top 75 for this year already. I mean, it was a good fight for Volodin. Like, we're not sitting here expecting great performances per se. I mean, he's here to put on bangers, and he's obviously living up to it. So I appreciate that from him for sure. Yeah.
I look, it was. I mean, I don't know how I would rank it necessarily, but I want. I guess because I know that he is tough enough to be able to take whatever damage comes back at him. I want more output to match that because I feel like if he had that, then he would be he could really be unstoppable. I mean, for such a guy of his stature to come in here with no fear, not worried about getting knocked out, not worried about the damage that he's going to take as far as cuts and that type of stuff. If he has that level of self confidence and the chin to match it, then add the striking to go with it and the be first mentality, the killer instinct part of it. That's what I need to see a little bit more out of him, because I really think that there could be a really really great fighter in there if he had all of those elements together.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think he's really just going to be here to put on fun fights, and people are going to tune in because they know Mark Volodin is a fun fighter. So
Yeah, I'm with it, and that's fine if that's the case. We'll see what they end up doing with him now after this. That's an interesting question. Of course, a majority draw is not exactly a career builder necessarily. So, what do they end up doing is the $1 million question.
all right, I had something to say. I agree with you. I think this is a draw, but I think this would be a draw that they would call the fighters back and then give it to Volodin. I'll go ahead and say that out loud. That's what I think should happen here.
Oh, you think that this of all of them should have been one that the judges give you two fights and then come back and say we made a mistake?
Volodin, we made a mistake, brother. You won 30-27. You did it.
Well, I mean, if you say that for this fight, then I guess the next fight is going to be the biggest no-brainer of all time. We'll talk about that in a second. But I mean, any final words on this? I mean, like I said, I thought it wasn't a bad fight. It was certainly an entertaining fight. Shout out to John Castaneda. Also, aside from the fouls, I actually thought he put on a good. This was a take two to tango kind of situation. I thought he put on a good performance aside from those fouls.
I definitely said that at the beginning too. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is the best I've seen Castaneda perform.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely take that away. And Volagdin, just again, be first, have a little bit more of that urgency. And I think that maybe there's more for him aside from just being the fun fighter guy.
Hell yeah. And
All right.
before we get to this
Yes.
next fight, shout out the chat. Beeb, Meat Rocket, Lachlan, again, you're awesome. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
This comment, this is the reason I had to reach out to the chat. Obviously, we're gonna give you guys your praise, but the comment here from Beeb, bro, a tie cup is a thong.
I mean, look, does it protect the nuts or does it not? I mean, how bad? Sacrifices must be made on one side or the other. If you want the protection, then that's what you got to wear sometimes.
Listen, you could be in the street wearing your tie cup, and you could get leverage on an armbar in a street fight. So, do you want to wear a thong? Do you want it to creep out the backside, or do you want to be equipped? What's the deal?
Pick your battles.
There you
Absolutely.
go.
But shout out to the chat. And also, Jeremy Hall, saw you earlier, brother. Appreciate you as
Oh,
well.
I'm sorry, Jeremy. I appreciate you, man.
Ah, you're good. All right. Well, let's talk about this next fight here because this is the one that, Chase, I told you before we started the stream. I'll say it here too. I would say that probably at least for the last 4 weeks, if not longer than that, I have had at least one solid major Yama level crash out per watch along. And this fight right here was the crash out for this one. This is JJ Aldrich versus Jamie Lynn Horth. I mean, we see such poor oversight of this sport when it comes to refereeing and when it comes to the commissions. We'll talk about more of it coming up in certain capacities. I thought that there was less of it on this card in total, but when you see something like what happened at the end of this fight with the decision here, it becomes one of those things. Like, it caught me so off guard. I think that that was also why it was such a crash out, but especially upon rewatch, I just have no idea how we ended up with such a blatant robbery. I mean, like, we might have to add robberies of the year to the year-end wrap-up, perhaps, because, like, I mean, there's so many of them now. We're gonna have 20 to pick from.
Yeah, that's actually a really good idea. You should definitely make that a category. But
Yeah,
the thing about this fight is that anything before the judge's decision, before they actually called the announcement, was very bad. This was not a good fight.
yes.
This was one of those fights where you look down at the clock and you said, "Oh God, it's still the first round. Oh, whoa, no, god damn!" And then you're on the second round and you're like, "Please, just end it for me. Like somehow, just don't even go to a third round."
Well, I'm glad that you said that because I did my very first note of the actual notes when it came to the rewatch was the decision might be bullshit, but Horth is somewhat to blame here because she was giving Aldrich way too much respect in this fight. We literally just saw Jamie Lynn Horth come off of a knockout, so we know that Jamie Lynn Horth has the power to be knocking these women out, and she is in here just tapping. I mean, these were pepper shots if I've ever seen them for the majority of it, and allowing JJ Aldrich, I mean, no disrespect to her personally, but like dude, I mean, 14-7 coming into this fight, or you know what I mean? Like, this is a person that we have seen consistently be beaten and is beatable, and she's giving her all of the leeway to look like a somewhat competent counter striker just off of that, just off of the fact you're letting her do it.
Yeah, but the thing about this, I mean, it may not have been exciting, but winning is not always fun. You know, Jamie Lynn Horth, though, I thought she put on a winning game plan. She executed a winnable fight. It's not like she did something crazy. She obviously let me down a little bit. I'm not necessarily as high on her anymore because what the fuck? But she put on a performance that it sufficed in my opinion. You know, there
Right.
was no doubt in my mind. There was no doubt in anybody's mind. It's like, all right, 30-27, call it a day. I mean, get this fight over with, please God. But when they called the judges call, it's like, what the fuck are you guys talking? Who is smoking what? And then you look at the judges that had fucking called it, and it's three people who have never judged the sport in their fucking life apparently. Because and then the one, I hate to listen, and I'm not trying to rag on her specifically, the one of the worst scorecards on there was just some random woman. And I'm not trying to call her that by I'm not trying to call her out by that. Respect to her for being in the game. She's a higher level than me. But the scorecard was bad, bro. It was terrible.
Yeah, no, I mean, this was so bad that, like, during the watch along, I remember I actually went back to rewatch it. Like, we were having a completely different conversation at that point with the chat, and like, it because I thought it was a foregone conclusion. You know what I mean? I was just like, I was kind of on to the next thing. We're talking about something else. We were reacting to something else, whatever. I like threw off my headphones just in disbelief. I was like, I cannot believe what I'm seeing here, what I'm hearing here. And then I saw the scorecards too. And what I said to that was when it came to the lady judge, I was like, exactly what you just outlined. And I know you personally, Chase, are not trying to make the gender of this person the issue, but you know that when it comes to this sport, you have to perform at a little bit of a greater level of caliber because there is going to be that scrutiny there. I'm not saying that I agree with it. I think that it should be equal across the board. but the standard,
Equal
you
scrutiny.
yeah, right. And there you go. Exactly. That's that. And that's the other side of the argument is that, yes, you are as equal as anybody else, especially in a judging situation. So you have to also be at the caliber that is expected of that. And when, I mean, granted, the only other thing that really gives her any leeway is that everybody had a terrible scorecard. So this was a unanimous decision. It's really mind boggling across the board. So really, she's kind of saved by that, but it does stand out because we do have so few women in the sport judging.
They all gave her the fight, but none of them were sure what round she won. Like, what are you
Just
talking
a
about, bro?
smattering here and there, whatever. I'm telling, because really, I felt like because of the lack of like serious moments in this fight, it was just kind of a Christmas tree. Just like, okay, I'll put 10 over here and a 10 over here, and okay, then whatever. Well, it'll wash out.
It made it worse because it wasn't the worst beatdown. Oh, it wasn't the worst beatdown, of course, that Jamie Lynn was able to put on JJ, but she at least was inflicting damage. JJ Aldridge's face was a little purple. We talk about the complexion a little bit. Her face was purple. She was bleeding a little bit. Jamie Lynn Horth, just clean as can be. She just had one of her shittiest fights ever, and she doesn't look like she really cares at all. That's really the biggest fucking issue here. And this is what she fucking gets for it, unfortunately. Unfortunately. But yeah, there's just no way that she lost this fight, bro. I This is why, again, sometimes guys, you got to just put the betting down for a little bit because you got to just wait for the smoke to clear. They don't want you to win money. They knew Jamie Lynn Horth was going to pay out on somebody's $1 billion bet, like this is crazy. I don't
I
know.
mean, yeah, well, because it's a good point with that too, because one of the main things that stuck out to me, especially on the rewatch, I said it during the live too, but like on rewatch, it was abundantly clear there were no real level changes in this fight. So this was squarely within Jamie Lynn Horth's wheelhouse. I mean, like she is a striker, she is proficient at striking by all metrics, this should have been and was to a grand extent a walkaway for Jamie Lynn Horth. She literally had double the striking output in round one than Aldridge. So, I mean, like every conceivable metric and your eye test tells you that this should have been a victory for her. And just for it to go the other way just really boggles the mind. So I kind of agree with what you're getting at with that. It was a very crazy thing to be witnessing here. And one of the points that was brought up on the watch along was that Horth, she was on a win streak. So there goes her win streak. And also there goes her ranking. JJ Aldrich, amazing as it may seem, was ranked. So, this is a ranked position that is now being denied to Horth. Her win streak is gone. This hits especially hard in a fight like this to me. Now, that all comes with the caveat that Horth probably should have finished this fight. So never leave it up to the judges. But, does that really matter when it should have been the right call at the end of the day? It's hard to say. And like you said, too, with the complexion, Aldrich with a mouse under her eye and a hematoma on her forehead getting the victory after, Horth looked like she just took a stiff jog around the block.
Yeah, and to Beep's point, who would put huge amount of money on this fight? Yes, you're right. I mean, the Vegas thing doesn't necessarily add up too
No,
much.
but that's exactly why. That's exactly why somebody would put a huge amount of money on the fight because no one's looking.
Yeah, true. Thinker's onto something, Beeb. You gotta think about it, man. Yeah, no, this one really sucks for Jamie Lynn, but this is I hate to say it, and it's just because I want better for her. This is what happens when you don't make the fight conclusive. And I know you did in a lot of people's eyes, but it was boring. It wasn't exciting. You weren't necessarily on the gas. You didn't have any takeaway moments. Regression is what it looked like against somebody who's not as good, unfortunately. And Jamie Lynn, you're way better than this girl. Like, come on. Like,
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know if it was regression or just a bad night or an off night or really what I thought more than anything was that she was just underestimating Aldrich. I thought that she thought it was an easy fight. She knew she was so much bigger than her. She wasn't going to have to worry about the takedown problems or anything like that. No ground game to worry about. I just think that she thought she could coast her way through it. That is what had to leave the judges out of it.
yeah, I agree. Yep,
So,
this one
well,
sucks.
yeah, definitely. I mean, that's pretty much all there is to say about it. Whole lot of counter striking for JJ, won her the fight. I did want to ask the question. I know this is a little bit of a departure, but this is something that has been like a conversation for a while. So I guess it's a good a time as any to address it. Lachlan asks, do you think AI judging would make things better or worse? I don't know if we've ever talked about this specifically, Chase.
I think we've brought it up a few different times, but it's always very interesting because there's no real It's always just too many variables to bring up. The PFL has an AI judge. Like, it brings up on the bottom in a banner, and it just says like random fucking numbers that they don't explain. So it's always like, what the fuck is that? But when it comes to if the AI would judge everything by the books, would you like it to have no bias? That's obviously what it would have no bias. It would have no underlying connection to anything. It would call it how it is. It unfortunately would need a see, it's a hard question. This is where it comes to, is because like it would need a finer guideline. We have too many gray areas where an AI would just like fucking melt if it saw a knee with a fucking knee lifting up while somebody kicked him in the face.
Yeah, no, that's my exact point too, is that when you take the human element out of it, you're asking for many problems. With AI being imperfect to begin with, you're having to feed a whole lot of different information into the algorithm that governs it, the LLM or whatever. You're going to like there's too much information that you would have to give to it and then be comfortable with it actually executing it correctly and consistently. I think that there's just too many variables to make it consistent and make it effective.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if it even logically makes sense. Like, how would it?
Yeah, well, and I mean, like I guess the AI would have to have some type of like visual analysis element that could analyze the intensity of strikes. You know what I mean? Things like that. Like those are like somewhat of the intangibles, I would say, how it decides a significant strike versus not. There's just too many things that you need a human eye on, I would say. Plus, if you take the humans out of it, then you're taking the human out of it, and that's part of the why the sport is great. Why we like it.
Here's my next big move. FanDuel, DraftKings, whoever wants to steal my idea, make sure you give me as many props and monies as ever, because you need to go ahead and invest in a camera for the judges on the sidelines. So when you're watching them and they go, hmm, and then they start making a fucking note or whatever, and then they go 10, that's a 10, whatever.
I love that. I think that that is a fantastic idea. We already have the multi-view cam when it comes to the UFC now that gives us the corners, right? Fucking ref cam is fine if you want to have one on the ref, and a judge's cam on the judge. Not only that, not only making sure that they're paying attention to the fight, but also just identifying these people. And I'm not look, I understand that it's a hard job, it's a thankless job, and all of that, but like the idea that it's just this shadowy sort of organization that really we don't know too much about these people, their credentials, how many fights that they've done. We know certain names. Sal D'Amato comes up 8 million times. We know that he's judged a lot of fights, but that lady that came up again, and this is just an example. It's not about her specifically, but the idea that, some random person, lady or otherwise, what, where, when, why, you know what I mean? Like how did you end up in this position? All of those types of things. Put a face to a name, hold these people accountable when they are holding your bets accountable. They are holding your bets hostage with their decision making.
100%. Yeah. So it's just pretty crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And be making the good point. Does AI even train? It's a good point.
Beeb actually made a really good point even after that. We need 5 judges, get rid of the top and bottom score.
Not a bad idea. That has been floated before. Doing the 5 judge. It have to be an odd number, of course. But well, yeah, no, 5. So I don't know why I thought he said 8. I have no idea. But yes, no, 5. Yes, 5 is that's not a bad idea. Yeah, sorry, I don't know what I was thinking. Either way, but yes, no, that has been floated before. Having more judges, I'm not opposed to it. I would need to see it in practice, but theoretically, it sounds fine to me.
But no, what about the second portion of it? Remove the top and bottom score.
That's what I mean. I would have to see how that would be in practice, because if they are consistent across the board, like how do you decide what the top and bottom are? Like I guess this is the lowest. Like
True.
you know
Lowest
what I
and
mean? Like
highest score. Yeah.
I guess just if one is the lowest and a number of other ones are also that, then just one of those lowest ones.
Yeah. Take away the obviously biased people.
And how do you decide that? It's like
Yeah.
this is like the firing squad with the one guy who's got the blank. You know what I mean? It's like you'll never know. But I don't know. Look, there are a lot of possibilities as to what could and could not be the fix. I don't claim to have all the answers, but what I do know is that every week I am yelling at the top of my lungs. Sometimes when I don't even have a voice, it's very painful for me to be yelling that loudly when I have no voice to begin with. But I am doing it consistently because of how much this infuriates me. So whatever the actual answer is, I would at least be okay with some attempts at this point. Let's try out the 5 judges and see if it's better or worse or whatever. We did it with the gloves. The new gloves were there for a while. People didn't like them. We went back to the old gloves. I would at least like to see some effort being made towards significant and substantial change, because what we have currently is consistently annoying the fuck out of me.
What if we had the communities commission, right? We have the commissions that go along with the UFC that are at every event. What if the community, what if we appointed 3 judges and they go to every single event, and those are the communities commissions, and then they start tracking what they would score the fights individually. Obviously it wouldn't matter, but like, you
I mean,
know,
technically we have that. I mean, we have that with the media scores,
yeah, true.
you
Yeah, I
know?
guess
So,
you're right.
yeah, I mean, again,
But
it's a
they
multi
suck. Oh my god, they fucking suck. I mean, but
oh,
I guess that comes into the same issue, but
that
uh,
one guy certainly sucked when it came to this fight we were just talking about.
right.
But yeah, no, I mean, look, again, it is a multifaceted issue. There's a lot of different, ways and things that people have suggested. Like I said, I'm open to all suggestions and open to implementation and testing of all of them. How about here's one that I actually think it could be legitimately helpful. If you have a change to the rule set that you think could be good, how about testing it on a regional promotion? See how it works there. If it ends up being successful in the regionals, maybe then you slowly roll it out in the pros or the higher promotions or whatever. All pro, but you know what I'm saying. The higher promotions.
Yeah, no, that's not a bad idea. I like it.
So I don't know. Again, these are just things that are potentially possibilities, but one way or another, I would like to see something happening here.
Beeb, I'm sorry, I hate to break it to you. Former fighters should be judges and also referees. Problem solved. Chris Lieben had one of the worst scorecards we just saw
Exactly.
recently. It was
Yeah.
fucked up, bro.
Chris Lieben on the judging, and I mean Frank Trigg is pretty good as a referee. I think he's done pretty decent, but I believe that there's even been some times where he's had some issues and stuff. Another one, I do. Like in general, I agree with that, like in a broad sense. And we can't single those guys out because they are the first ones to be doing it. So, like again, if that's a good fix, have more of them starting to do it. You know what I mean? Like bring more of them into the fold. I am always of the mindset having more people involved and better training is what is going to be the fix overall. So if that is part of it, then roll all of that into one and put it out there into the world.
Um, yeah, there's plenty of other ideas, but we obviously got to move on. We can
Exactly.
continue going on with it forever.
Yeah, exactly. But thank you guys very much for the conversation about that. And I'm sure it's going to come up again at some point in the future.
Hell yeah.
Either way, the fight that is coming up next on this very show is, of course, Melissa Croden versus Daria Zalesniakova. Now, we were just talking about oversight and stuff. There was some pretty poor oversight in this fight specifically, but the fight itself not bad, I thought.
This fight was actually really, really good, and there's actually a lot to talk about. So I had told you Daria was the hardest puncher that Melissa Mullins had ever faced, and obviously she left her fucking butchered. Daria, it makes sense now. When I see her game throughout 5 rounds, not 5 rounds, 3 rounds on the feet, I see why she's successful and why she's able to bust up somebody like Melissa Mullins. Her game is it's not necessarily technical, but it's very sound. She knows exactly what her game plan is. Circle right. It's very fucking obvious. Circle right. And if you get close, she just fucking punches just as many times as she can. Like she's very good at a 1-2, but if you get close enough, she will just do like that Pena fucking spam, kind of deal. So it's very hard to break her range, to keep her off her feet. And even at the end of the first round, I'm not gonna lie to you. I had been very high on Melissa Croden. A lot of people, hopefully you know that I'm a Melissa Croden fan. Her last performance I didn't think was as good as it could have been. I believe she might have been a little hurt, but either way, when this first round ended, she went to her coach's corner and she said, I can't cut her off. And right there, I said, fuck. I mean, I've seen this before. I've seen it time and time again. Kevin Holland with MVP, he's too fast. The fight's over. I mean, he's too fast. He's not going to be able to get it. Confidence is already shot. Melissa Croden, this is why she's one of my favorites, because she does what believe to be improbable at that time. She has already lost the first round. She is bloodied at the end of the first round. Her nose is busted up because again, this jab and this 1-2 from Daria is pretty fucking killer. Mind you, I don't know if you caught on to this. Daria is number two to be wearing makeup in the fucking cage, bro.
Right after Tracy.
Yes, after Tracy. But either way, Melissa Croden came into round 2, and it was a whole new fucking game. She actually, her coaches didn't even give her any fucking help. Like, she was just like, "I don't know what to do," and he was just like,
Well, that was an interesting point. I heard that on the broadcast. She was training with Dewey Cooper, which, that's a great gym over there, but apparently only for like 6 weeks. So like they don't even really know each other like that, you know?
Yeah, so that was definitely interesting, but she came into round 2 and she knew exactly what she had to do. This is where it actually became a little bit of a scrappy fight. She was busting up Daria a little bit, I believe, is when Daria started getting busted up in round 2. We were smearing the blood all over each other in some clinches. It was a really fun scrap after round 1. I thought it really got down to it. Once Daria had to actually engage in it, you can see her just running around. Dude, she did a whole rotation around the fucking cage.
Oh yeah.
This is where the ref obviously just didn't give a fuck. I'm like, "You're gonna let her fucking run? Like, what are you doing?" Like, oh my
Well,
goodness. Like,
I mean, the thing was with that, because yeah, there was like some legitimate running in this fight. I mean, even I, who will often chalk it up to savvy navigation of fights. There's a difference here. This was Chelsea Chandler level of running in
yeah.
this fight. But no, this is the interesting thing about Croden, is at least what it seems like to me. She's just a fighter that, for whatever reason, she cannot put the pieces together until the second half of the fight. I say, if you are going to beat Melissa Croden and you are not going to grapple fuck her, you need to do it in the first 7 minutes and 30 seconds, because if not, she's going to somehow, some way figure out a method to victory, which I think is very admirable here, especially with all of the stuff going on with the refereeing, which we'll talk about in a second. But yeah, I mean, early on in this fight, you're right. I mean, Daria, the running started later because Daria was always very active on her feet in this fight, but like that was working for her because she was on her bike for the whole thing, but she was sticking and moving, circling all the time. I mean, like, that was the big note from Senko that I agreed with was, Croden not anticipating the movement necessarily, but then what you said, she comes back to the corner, she's just like, I can't. So it's like, that's one of those things. It's like, how do you parse that? It's like, if she's saying that like she's aware of it, but she doesn't have an answer for it, definitely puts you in a bad position. But she like was getting touched up with that, and it was working pretty well for Daria. But then when Croden finally flipped the switch, it all started to crumble for Daria, and that's when you really saw that it can turn from savvy navigation into legitimate running very quickly.
Yeah, and what's actually pretty funny is I respect Daria's game as much as I want to clown her for wearing makeup and for being the Shevchenko time, squared of the third, cubed, whatever you want to say.
Right.
She actually has a really solid game. And the game that she has not only is solid, but it is good enough to beat a lot of unranked women in this sport. Even maybe even 14, 15. Like, I think her being ranked is not even out of the realm. I actually at a time used to clown her for being one of the worst. I've seen her lose to Eileen Perez, now Melissa Croden. She is not as bad as she seems, because not a lot of women, one, again, I've said this before, not a lot of women are going to get beat the fuck up and actually get to the bell. And, that goes for anybody, to lose and to continue losing and to overcome losing, you have to be built different. Daria is very good at, leading a fight. She can just lead, she can lead, she can lead, and she's very stable and consistent in her game. And I really respect that out of a fighter. If you can do that for 3 rounds, if you are consistent for a performance that I know you were going to get. She's kind of like, we have a lot of these strikers that are coming up. Ernesta Kadetske is somebody who's not like her. She pushes the volume a little more. She walks forward with her punches instead of to the side. But I like Daria a lot. I really respect her a lot more for this. Again, Melissa Croden, one of my favorites. I'm very happy that she's still getting this done. Rocky performance against Luana Santos, but 2-1 in the UFC so far. At 8-3, we still have some work to do. I'm really excited.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that the issue that Daria ran into when it came to the running was that it was not. I mean, granted, it was because she had gotten touched a little bit, and that was like first, not in and of itself a problem. But really, it like when the round was close, because I thought that round two ended up being pretty close overall. Like if you go back and watch it point by point, and you know that Croden's about to turn up about literally halfway through it, it makes it a much closer round than it may seem. But that's partially Daria making herself optically look bad. Of course, the sport is so much about optics. We talk about that all the time. When the judges see you literally running away from the fight, that regardless of whether you're circling back in to re-engage. You're making yourself look really bad by doing that. And then, of course, we can talk a little bit about all of the cage grabs that were happening here, because this was the fight where, I mean, Daria Zalesniakova grabbed the cage 4 times, I counted, in this fight. And this is the one that I remember. This is what I was talking about earlier. The referee that I remember. This is Jaron Vallel. I remembered this name because in previous years, I always thought that he was one of the better referees that we only see occasionally. Like, he's a dude that kind of comes in and out. He's not always consistently reffing, but anytime that I had seen him, I was like, oh, he's one of the better ones, I thought at the time. This is years ago now. But he's literally watching everything that's happening. He's tapping the hand off the cage at times too. How many times do you need to do that? I was like, this dude is suited for Inca FC, where he gets to just sit back, do nothing, and just watch like a fan, because that's pretty much what he was doing. These were position altering cage grabs that were happening here, and one of them was during a sub attempt. So it's like, if that's not as blatant as it gets, I don't know what else you need to see here.
Yeah, no, these were awful, and thankfully, Melissa Croden had the momentum, and she was able to continue having it. The sub attempt was beautiful. The standing arm triangle was awesome, and then to take her down into it, I thought it was good to go right there. But shout out to Daria again, once again, cheating, but I and again, this goes back to me just being a fan sometimes of seeing the fighter who will do whatever it takes to try to win. You know, they may
Right.
have lost, but at least in my mind, she was doing whatever she could get away with, you know? I
Well,
mean,
and
that's the nature of the beast.
and you know, the fun part about with that mentality is that illegal knee from Croden also in the in the third round. So it's like, you know, Vallel just chilling on that one as well. So it's like, all right, at least you got to get back, you know. So even it out maybe a little bit. Either way, dominant third round for Croden. Second round was close, but she still took that too. So good win for Melissa Croden overall. I thought, you know, I mean, she, like you said, still needs a little bit of work, but I think that this was a fine victory.
I want you, and this might be something that I don't know if I have time tonight, but I'm definitely going to go look for it. If you go back to the first performance that Melissa Croden had, Jesus Christ, excuse me, the first performance that Melissa Croden had, I said the exact same thing that you just said, the exact same thing. The halfway mark through the second round, she was able to just flip the switch and she was go mode, and the rest of the fight was hers. I don't know what exactly it is in her. I mean, she's got a very good mental clock. Like, all right, it's go time. Like, I've played around long enough. Now I cannot lose any longer. Like, this is the moment that I literally cannot lose a second longer of the fight. Like, I'm very happy that you said that, because I saw that from the jump in her first performance, and that's exactly what I'm glad that you see. Like, that is such a good thing that she has, especially being in bantamweight. There's just not many people who are rising the ranks right now. You know, we talked about Larissa Pacheco is going to be in Karate Combat. They didn't want to bring her back. That could have been somebody who was instantly in the ranks of the bantamweight division, but no, Melissa Croden could be somebody who instantly jumps right into those rankings here soon. Like, this is going to be very good for her. I'm
Yeah,
very excited.
absolutely. And I just hope that if that is going to be the case for her, that it works out consistently as well. Either that or be a little bit more urgent. You know how I feel about starting strong. I mean, it goes a very long way. And when you know you're capable of it, that's the other thing at this point for Melissa Croden. 3 fights deep in the UFC, you got to know that you have that in you to do that. So just start off with that feeling and carry that through the fight. Like, it seems like she certainly seems like she could do that.
True, but let's be honest. Daria it was a tough figure. None for the first round. It was a tough first round for
Yeah.
her to figure it out. Obviously, she was able to just, all right, I just got to go at her, But Daria, again, I've said this since the beginning. Not since the beginning of time, obviously. She's changed my mind since the beginning of this fight that we've talked about. Daria has impressed me a lot, and I'm very I for a girl who's literally got eyelashes and makeup on in the cage, like, she's not the worst fighter. Like, she kind of is a little bit of a dog. Like, I don't know. She did tap a little, with Eileen on top of her, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I like Daria enough. I mean, I think that she's, like you said, I think that she's tougher than, you know, your average lady. I think that there are issues with some of the optical elements that we talked about there. She just got to be able to take the roll with the punches, take the punch. I mean, like, because that's what started the real legitimate running was her getting touched up a little bit, and it's like you just got to know that it's a fist fight. You got to be able to take it. So
True.
hard to say there, but shout out to Melissa Croden. Good deal here.
Hell yeah.
All right. Well, next up, this was a quick one. Quick-ish compared to some, but this was actually a pretty decent one, I thought. This is Tanner Boser versus Gokhan Sarsham, I believe is how they pronounce that name. It's spelled Sarikam, but it's I believe pronounced Sarsham. What'd you think of this one?
This one for the heavyweights. This I'm not gonna lie to you. It felt like we were back for a hot second. I was like, oh shit, maybe heavyweights are back. Maybe we actually do have heavyweights that are just they're gonna slug and it's gonna sound like one of them's gonna die when it hits them because these dudes were trying to kill each other. But the main thing that I said about this, and I gotta clip this one too because this was almost one of the more epic calls that I've had, and there's not that many examples of it because Turkey doesn't have that many representatives. This guy came out and I looked at him and I said, what is it about Turkish people that they could seemingly not be the most fit person. They could not really work out, it seems, to be the most chiseled person. But then they seemingly can do nothing and then just say, fuck it, Hail Mary, and then just knock people out. Like they are almost like the Samoans. Like they are almost just like they're just built like tanks. And when they get tired of fighting, they just throw one big punch and it just lands and the fight's over. It's like and the fact that it didn't happen up until this point, it even proves my point even more. It's like he got so tired, he's just like walking around with his hands down to the point where I'm like, I thought Gokhan, because first off, his name Gokhan, Gohan, like
Yeah,
come on,
it
guys.
goes hard.
It does go hard, but like in the first run, I was like, "Damn, this is like a heavyweight. This is how you just when you described Ante Dalia, I kind of didn't see it as much because he's got the quick hands. But this Gokhan dude, I'm like, this is what I feel heavyweights used to be, kind of deal. And then second round came and he's walking with his hands down and he's definitely tired. He's hitting he's loading his arms up a little bit, and I'm like, oh man, this is it. This is what I should have expected saying, oh, he's a true heavyweight. I should have known this is what comes in round two. But then it goes back to the point that I made at the beginning of the fight. Yeah, he could just say fuck it at any point, and I'm just gonna throw a punch that I've been doing the entire fight, and the dude's been not getting hit by it. But now when I'm tired and at the weakest point in my, endurance, now I land it and it obviously chins him, which unfortunate because it was a pretty good scrap from Tanner Boser.
Well, yeah, no, you're exactly right. I mean, like the greatest part about that being the case is how much output he had before that. I mean, this was a really like intense scrap. The pace of this fight was very frenetic in a great way. I mean, it's somewhat unusual for the bigger heavyweights. Now, of course, these guys are not. They were talking about that on commentary. These are like on the smaller side of heavyweight, but they're saying, oh, is this ushering in like a new era of the smaller heavyweight? If this is what you get out of it, I am completely okay with that because this was actually like a legitimate scrap here. Heavy shots landed in both directions. I give Tanner Boser some credit as well. I mean, he's got a pretty decent chin up until it failed him. The pace and the intensity was exactly what you want out of a heavyweight fight. This is the fight this is the type of fight, at least, that deserves a good amount of praise with the current state of heavyweight. I thought, with everything else, basically what you were getting at. So, Sarkhan was relentless, especially when he sensed that there was blood in the water, which I was really appreciative of. He didn't end up getting it in that first round when he was really going heavy. Then you're all worried, everybody's worried about, okay, it's heavyweight. So round two, are we going to get any of that again? I'd say the pace slowed a very little bit, but not dramatically, not enough that like it was like, man, this is like a completely different fight here. And then just that clean shot, the clean right, just clears Boser. I mean, like really, after a hard fought dance between these two guys, like just a one shot Dillinger kind of deal, and Gokhan walks away. So I was very happy with all of this in the big picture. Which kind of leads to my other point that I wanted to mention. So this is a little bit of a lore drop that came into the watch along, and Hydra's not here currently, but this is from him. So shout out to him. He had mentioned both Tanner Boser and Gokhan Sarsham are Ali Abdelaziz clients. And his thought was that Bozer is a little bit of a complainer. He's a guy who I guess apparently had been asking for fights, but then not taking fights. At least this is all coming from secondhand sources. So don't quote me on any of these things as absolute fact. But that was the general atmosphere, was that this might have been a sacrificial kind of fight here to get a Bozer iced off and not be so much of a problem for Ali anymore. You put any stock into that, Chase?
I don't put stock too much into that theory itself, but I am familiar with Ali facing off his clients against each other. Brendan Allen and Shabazian is another example. It's like you just matched up an unranked one of of your clients against somebody who's like fourth fucking ranked right now. How's that fucking work? How'd you pull that one off, buddy? But
Right.
who knows how that's going to work? Is this going to be an easy way for him to earn Shabazian a ranking? And Brendan Allen obviously is not going to lose his ranking from that kind of deal. He's just going to drop, and they're going to push Roman Delise off. So be on the lookout for that. I mean, that's just your little insight right there, I guess, if you want to go along with the story.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I don't really know. Excuse me. I don't really know how much stock to put into it or not. But to your point, if there is any kernel of truth to it, this is certainly a way to accomplish the goal. Because I mean, Sarsham, kind of came out of nowhere a little bit, right? I mean, he's a dude who skipped the Contender Series. We were kind of talking about that. I think we didn't have too much
Yes, he came from
information.
Bellator.
Yeah, so I mean, like, okay, so I guess he has a little bit of a history elsewhere, but at least as far as UFC goes, a guy coming out of left field to an extent, and now doing a performance like this. I mean, this definitely, what heavyweight is like right now. This is a performance that gets you noticed. So if you have to use a guy who's a little bit of a thorn in your side to make that happen, then good business for Ali, even if it's bad business for one of your guys.
My thing about Gokhan is he shot 4 takedowns and none of them look good. He also shot them because his striking didn't really look, promising at those points kind of deal. And then when the takedowns didn't work, again, it was all because he could just say, "Fuck it, I'm done fighting and I'm just going to punch him and he's not going to move anymore." And it worked. When it doesn't work, and he's walking around with his hands down, loading up his arms, and it's not Tanner Bozer. I mean, obviously, I'm not thinking Gokhan's going very far, but
Well, yeah, and this is always the $1 million question here. When it's a fight like this, you need more information. We're going to talk about a couple of people that are in that camp on this card. Basically, you get a great highlight out of it, but there is more data that is needed to make a full on impression as to how you should be viewing them going forward. But for what we got out of this, I mean, this will definitely at least keep him around to find that out later on.
100%.
All right. So good deal here. Good job, Sarsham. Looking good for Turkey. Next up on the docket here is Julian LeBlanc versus Robert Valentin. Of course, we were talking about Robert Valentin, our guy from The Ultimate Fighter, personality that everybody liked. Somebody who has not had such great luck inside of the organization, really needed to get the win here, and indeed did just that. However, it was against Julian LeBlanc, and who the fuck is that guy?
Who the fuck is that guy? Yeah, no, Julian LeBlanc. I mean, I'm glad 10-7 came out and said it. I think it was maybe on his podcast or on his show that I was listening to, and I asked him about Robert Valentin, and he said Julian LeBlanc is one of the worst fighters that I've seen. And that's fair to him. I had never seen him, but he lived up to that name. Robert Valentin, not obviously the greatest, but he is very skilled. He's very devoted to the game. They clearly needed to give him a layup. It's unfortunate they gave him a hometown kid, but Julian LeBlanc clearly didn't know what he was getting himself into, didn't know what Robert Valentin was carrying. Jesus Christ, I am just so. He didn't know what Robert Valentin was carrying on his shoulders for this fight, And I actually think it's interesting. I put down Robert Valentin's sub on verdict, and then I was very confident, he could get him down and sub him. It was a good call. But I think what I failed to realize is like Robert Valentin isn't getting people down. This dude's a striker. Like this dude is here to fight, and he got the fight to the ground based off of his striking. And I thought he did a very good. He had a very good start to this fight. He came out aggressive. He came out super effective and powerful, and got the fight exactly where he needed to be. And obviously, the choke came very easy. He was, he was working it for a few. It was making me worried that he wasn't going to be able to finish his fucking choke with how many times he was adjusting it. But at the end of the day, Robert Valentin is again he's a savant. This dude loves martial arts, and he's willing to do what it takes to win. And I actually think, what's funny, we talk about Robert Valentine and his neighbor, and the connection that he has to his neighbor. When you look at the team that he had in his corner, it's like this dude really just has a small circle, and if he meets a dude that he really likes, they're bros. Because Myron Santos was this fucking cornerman. This guy, they're in the Ultimate Fighter, of course, but like they weren't even in the weight class together. They didn't necessarily train together on the show, but like they were on part of Team Grasso or whatever. So like they're buds, that's just how it is, and like it's
Just
stuck.
it's Frank and Jackson in Bloodsport. You meet people and you just become instantly bonded like that. They
Yep.
did the epic handshake.
True, absolutely. Yeah, I love it. So Robert Valentine, yeah, I love this performance. What did you think?
I mean, I thought it was great. All Rob. I mean, really is all that I had. I mean, really the whole thing. I mean, the heavy shots woke LeBlanc up, takedown, sub and Dunzo. I mean, it's about as much as you can say about it. Nice work from Rob to work the face crank. It's like you said, he had to fish for it a little while to get the hands connected, but once he cinched it up, it was a done deal, and he did it with his striking. I was to your point about him being a striker. I mean, he's got a number of submissions on his record. I mean, I think they said something like 7. I think this is number 8 now. So, this is not like it's out of his wheelhouse to get the sub, but he does set it up with his striking. And really, like, it sucks that it kind of had to be a guy like of the LeBlanc caliber, perhaps. I mean, we're gonna have to see if he's able to do that against, people who are not just kind of coming in from off the street, is what it felt like with this fight. But for what it was, I thought that this was exactly what you should do. Like, if you are at the level that this is the type of opponent that you get, then the very bare minimum you have to do is have a performance like this. Because if you can't do that against this type of an opponent, then there's no hope for you going further past that. So this is, I thought, was exactly correct. Good job in this fight. Thought it was very heartfelt. He was very emotional after this victory here. He obviously had some messages about his mother who's passed away. That's very sad, of course. So rest in peace to her. That's really the only things that I had to say about all of this. The only other thing that I did want to at least briefly address, because I did not know this about Robert Valentine, and it kind of puts him in a little bit of a different light for me. I guess he is a bit of a right winger, like kind of one of these ultra nationalist sort of dudes in Switzerland. Remember, I posted in the Discord a while back about how the media won't cover him, and I thought it was just like, oh, they won't cover him, but that's like maybe because he's not winning fights. Well, apparently it's more so because he has some rather extreme views, and that's slightly concerning, I suppose, because I really like Robert Valentine, but I guess it is what it is. I don't know what to say.
You saw those tattoos on his chest and you thought that dude was sane, huh?
I mean, I didn't want to believe it. I mean, like, you see the runes, the kind of what are the, like, pagan or Nordic, that sort of thing. And I know that there often might be some connections, but you want to think better of people. I always give people the benefit of the doubt until they prove me otherwise. But now it looks like Robert Valentine might be proving me a little otherwise.
True. Yeah, absolutely. But either way, Robert Valentine, I appreciate him for getting this win because this is exactly what he needed to do to keep his UFC career alive. And this seems like a dude this is like a Tony Ferguson dude. Like, if he's not here in the spotlight, he's going to go somewhere else and he's going to have fans, of course. But like, you might as well have him in the UFC doing it on the biggest stage because he's going to go off and have a big, long martial arts career getting plenty of CTE or whatever's going on with him. It's just how it's going to go.
Absolutely. Yeah. Dedicated to the game 100%. And I'm very happy that he did get this win. I still like him, even if there are questionable elements outside of the cage. So good job, Robert Valentine. You stick around for another day.
Just chalk it up as a language barrier. You're good.
Yeah, there you go. I think I'll have to do that until it until it becomes apparent otherwise. But yeah, good deal here. So shout out to him. Also,
Hell
shout
yeah.
out to Johnny the God in the chat, bro. Appreciate you, my guy. Thank you for being here.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, rounding out the prelims, I mean, this was a welcome to the UFC moment if there ever was one. This is Dennis Bazukia versus the newcomer Marcio Barbosa. And I mean, you want to talk about a one and done. This was I mean, I hate to say that this should possibly be considered it, but maybe honorable mention for knockout of the year, because this was just such a clean shot that just sent Bazukia into the shadow realm from a newcomer to the organization. We knew he had power from the from the Contender Series. We knew he had power from there, but we needed to see a little bit more. We still need to see a little bit more out of him. This is one that was so quick. A minute 20 into this fight, this was over. But I mean, I don't think that there's any question about the power now, because the shot that he landed was not really like a crazy, what they call the kinetic chain. We were talking about that on the RWS stream a good amount. setting up the PowerPoint so that the energy moves through your body into the punch. He didn't have all of that from this shot. It was just I think it was a check hook that did it and just annihilated him. So what do you got to say to that?
This one, we often talk about finishers who finish very, very fast, and there's not much that you can tell based on their performance. But I think this one right here, I really like this Marcio dude, and I'll explain why. The first thing I want to note about this Dennis dude, when he walked out, they said, longtime training partner of Marab and Aljo. And I thought to myself, this doesn't really mean anything to me, because when I'm watching him fight, I'm like, Stude's a striker. What the fuck is Marab and Aljo teaching him? I mean, what's going on here? And Marab and Aljo have those type of styles that genetics very, very greatly enhance. It's not like you can pass those down to somebody. He's not going to be the greatest wrestler in the division just because he trains with them. Like they're them because they're them, and he's him. So when I see him coming out striking, I'm like, oh yeah, this will be rich. Let's see what Marab and Aljo have taught this dude about striking. And the main things about Marcio that I really picked up on that I really, really like, this dude, he has 17 wins at the time, 17 wins, 16 first round finishes. When you saw him come out in the first round, think of all these other first round finishes that you see. Think of a John Silva. What does he do? He runs across the cage and he's all active and he's in your face. He's putting the pressure on you. Marcio didn't do that. Marcio sat back. He didn't throw a single punch for the first however long. I was curious. I was like, God, this dude's measured. Is he worried? Is he like, no way? Like, I mean, he's the most measured I've ever seen for a first round finisher.
Yeah,
This
very
dude,
composed.
he was not throwing shots just out there. He knew what shots he was gonna land. He was just waiting for Dennis to just overextend himself, and it didn't take him long. And the combination that he set up, it honestly was perfect. He popped him up a few times. Dennis threw, he dipped under, and then he threw the hook, and it flatlined him. I mean, it was almost textbook. You don't get knockouts like that very often. The ones that are just perfect fucking, RoboCop to Hermanson. Like it was just like you perfect shot placement, drops them, hands go up, and like they just fall back dead, kind of deal. And Marcio, I think it's just so impressive that he wasn't just eager to get this finish. He wasn't just bloodthirsty because I'm the first round finisher. I'm gonna go gas myself out in the first round. This is a person that made me believe, like, holy shit, like this dude thinks that like he can fight. It's not just about going out there and just finishing them. It's like, I will do what it takes right now. Whatever you think you got, I will give it back. And he, dude, I like this dude a lot. I think it's, again, contender series guys, South Americans with padded records. You guys got to keep paying attention to them. It's just, that's how it is.
Well, not padded records, but extensive records, I guess you'd
Mm,
say. Records that are a little bit more developed than the
there you
other
go.
guys coming in for sure. Yeah, but no, I agree. I mean, talk about your theory being played out in real time correctly. You nailed it on that one. So good job there. But yeah, no, I mean, I thought it was great. I thought it was a very impressive knockout. I thought he had a cool story in his post fight. The story about his dad giving him his last $20, and he said, I'm not coming home until I have a win in the UFC, and look at me now." And I was like, that's pretty inspiring. So you got to love it. There's really not much to dislike, honestly. I didn't see anything in anything that I saw that was like, man, that's the thing that sticks out to me. So across the board, good marks.
This is another classic. Marcio tells a story in a different language that has to be translated, but he talks for 5 minutes, and then Fabio's just about to be like, "Yeah, he had a really good fight, guys," and like he just has to like just sum it up really quick. Obviously, he did the story, but it was just really funny that he talked for a really long time, and I'm sitting here thinking like, "No way am I getting the entire translation." Like I props to you, brother, but I'm not gonna get it all. I'm not
from what
getting it.
I from what I understand, Fabiano is actually pretty accurate with the translations. So I got to believe that we got at least the majority of it.
That's just got to be such a special skill to not only be able to remember what somebody has said to you, but to repeat it, but then to do it in a different translation. Like, shout out to this guy. Appreciate him.
Absolutely. One of the most beloved figures in the entire sport, I would say. But yeah, and then I mean, the only last thing I would say is on Bazookia's side. I mean, the losses are starting to add up. At this point, I believe he's coming off of a loss now.
Yeah, no, this dude's bro, he's gotta be out of here for sure. He's lost to Francis Marshall, win to Connor Matthews, lost to Jamal Emmers, lost to Sean Woodson. He's 1-4 in his last 5, so
There, so yeah, I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, I don't necessarily, I'm not wishing it on the guy, but I just keep in mind that if you see Bazookia on the chopping block, you'll know why.
100%.
All right. That takes care of the prelims. Let's go on to the main card here. Starting off with Thiago Moises versus Gage Young. I thought that Moises started this fight pretty well. I mean, talk about starting strong. I mean, he was on the attack early. I mean, granted, Thiago Moises' fatal flaw is his striking. He is just not a great striker, but he made up for it, in my estimation, a little bit with the control. I mean, obviously, control in and of itself by itself is not going to win you the fight, but he did have a good command of the positions. Not crazy output on either side for the first round, but so Moises dictating the action was to his benefit. He nearly pulled off the modified twister in the first round. That was, I thought, pretty impressive, but did not get that, so it doesn't really matter. And then from there, Gage Young just incrementally started to pick up the pace and take over the fight. However, the big story of this fight, and I want to hear your entire breakdown of it, of course, but I don't think that I can stop talking about it without saying that this guy Gage Young, I mean, fight IQ is something we talk about pretty regularly. This has to be one of the lowest fight IQ performances that we have seen based on this third round, in the sense that this guy let a pretty dead to rights knockout walk out the door because he wanted to do his Cody Garbrandt and Preston and hit the disco moves.
Yes, I will definitely talk about that because I think it is what is ultimately going to be the fatal flaw of Gage Young. Because I've said this before, and I called this out. Gage Young winning this fight was very easy in my opinion because I've always said. By the way, split decision is pretty crazy.
Yeah, very wild.
Gage Young has always stuck out to me as somebody who has all the skills, all the tools. He is very, very generic. He has an all around talent. But I think when you look at his intangibles and when you look at the IQ, I mean, you're not wrong to question something like that when you look at it. But in his defense, I'm not saying this is the best excuse, but in his defense, why would he jump into a black belt's guard? I mean, but dancing on the other hand is another story,
That's the thing, and this is what I wanted to say about this. Because you know how I am with showboating. I do not like it. There's plenty of time
Yeah.
afterwards to celebrate, right? But I'll give you the caveat to this, because this is only a recent development in my own mind. I'll give you one instance where I think showboating is okay, because Gage Young showed it to me right here. The one instance I think showboating is acceptable is when you step back. If your opponent is on the ground and they're dead bugging, and you step back and you're waiting for them to stand up and they're taking a while to stand up, that's your time to hit an emote. That's the one time, because they're the one that's, make that they're holding the fight up at that point. You're waiting to continue to strike. So if they're taking the time, not only does it signal that, hey, I'm winning this fight, but also it's like, move it, brother. I'm over here. I'm hitting the cha-cha right now, bro. You're the one that's looking like an idiot right now. That's the one time I think it's okay. He did that once and then did not stop doing that. That
Well,
was the problem. So, because I'm the first one to say, if you're doing great work with your hands and your opponent really wants you to come into the guard, never give them that. You're exactly right. Stay out of the black belt's guard. That's what standing them up is for. So hit that as much as you need to, especially if you're doing good work with the hands and you know that Thiago Moises is not going to give you problems with his. So that being said, all good there. But it was the consistency of the emoting and the letting the knockout just sail, because there was a point, I believe it was in the third round. Of course, it was in the third round, but yeah. Oh, yeah. Here it is. Just after the 2-minute mark, Gage could have finished the fight. There was a point where Thiago had been dropped pretty soundly. I think he did go down to the ground with him for a minute there, started landing a couple shots. That would have been the time that if he had continued that sequence, he probably would have been able to finish this fight. He chose to emote. There's your IQ.
yeah. Other than that, I mean, it was it was not the worst fight. I thought this was very fun. I thought Gage Young did a lot of good things. I thought Moises had a very dominant first round, but as normal, starts to slow, starts to do nothing. Gage Young was able to just open up. I mean, he had a very good amount of strikes landed, 122 strikes landed, significant strikes, excuse me. Very good performance from him against a high against somebody who's very credentialed in this sport, not in this sport, but when it comes to BJJ in mixed martial arts. Like this is a very highly regarded athlete. Like people, they look at fucking Thiago Moises like he's some god of Brazil. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Sometimes like what he's done in grappling, I have no idea, but it must have been something crazy because they really do respect this dude a lot. So Gage Young notching this guy on his belt, I think is a good performance for him, especially at this point in his career because it didn't start off too great. And it was on short notice when it started. But either way,
Yeah, fair, all fair. And what I did like early on in this fight, as far as fight IQ went for Young, and this is why the eventual turn was so annoying to me, was that I thought that he had a very good, like once he started to figure out the takedown attempts from Moises, he had a really good command of negating that. You know, like once he was aware of the takedown threat in the second round, he started to stop those effectively, and then he let his hands go. Perfect. I mean, that's really what you want to see, especially out of a younger guy. I mean, you're recognizing problems or potential problems. You're recognizing the threat, and you're saying this is the answer to that. And when you have that, all great. You gotta finish the action though, brother. I mean, like, this is you can't just get by on that being the thing and then just be okay with that. You're in it to win it. And then he himself, at the end of the fight, in his post fight, talking about, man, I want to just be out here finishing guys, bro. You were literally just in the exact fight to do that.
yeah,
So
absolutely. I can't believe it sometimes, but Gage Young walked away with a win, split decision, absolutely crazy. The unsung talking point about this one. Jesus Christ, how did this get a nod to Moises? Makes zero sense to me.
yeah, no,
40 strikes landed, by the way.
yeah, you're absolutely correct about that. Yeah, this being a split decision should definitely be something that's a bigger talking point than it has been. Yet another instance, and like you say, Chase, you gotta point these out even when it goes correctly, because those are still significant problems that very well could have been a much bigger problem had one other person decided that that was going to be the case. So
Correct.
yeah,
Yeah.
but either way, good job, Gage Young. Do a better job going forward, and maybe I'll actually root for you.
Yes.
All right. Next up, Jasmine Jazz Davicius versus Karini Silva. This fight kind of sucked over here. I was not super happy with this one. It was a slow first round until Jasmine got the takedown, and then we did see a dead Archer attempt. That was where Joe Rogan really would have been. He was doing the Leo from Once Upon a Time, clicking his fingers and pointing to the screen. But other than that, there was just a lot of like not great things in this fight to me. Jasmine actually did not look great in this fight to me. There was a lot of fight IQ issues for her as well. So kind of a mixed bag with this. I don't know. It seemed like you might not agree with me on that assessment. What do you think?
We will definitely talk about Jasmine here in a second because there's a big story about her going around. I don't know if you
Uh-oh.
caught on to it.
I don't think I have. Enlighten
Okay.
me.
Well, yeah, I noticed it during the fight as well. But so this fight actually, I think if you are somebody who appreciates grappling and what a threatening jujitsu guard is, you would like this fight. I personally did not think this was the worst because I have come around to Karini Silva. Let me state this right now. I think she won this fight. I think actually Karini Silva won this fight because I've come around to what she actually is. She is not just somebody who lays on her back and waits for action to happen. She actually is somebody who is able to negate the action of somebody who's in top control on her. Not only negate the action, but she's able to threaten submissions that you may not normally see, and they're actually closer than anybody would ever normally get. I even said this during the watch along, and it's a stretch. Now, hear me out. It's nowhere near the level. It is nowhere near the finishing ability. It is nowhere near the level of this person. But there's only one other person that I've seen threaten as many different submissions that are unique to the game that you would not often think about. And that is Charles Oliveira. And I know this, again, this is way too big of a leap to compare them. But Karini Silva was able to, in my opinion, win this fight off of her back, mainly from submission attempts, submission threats, and of course, she had a decent amount of elbows off of her back. But this is to the point that Jasmine Juice Vicious did not much in the control that she had in this fight. From top position, she was letting Karini Silva control her, really. She was letting her get into all these type of submissions where she was just able to do nothing to affect the fight. Karini Silva, I have been very harsh. I get it. I'm actually a fan now. I think if you perform like this, You are making a fan out of me. Like, this is very, very good in my opinion. I know she did not win. The thing that I want to talk about Jasmine, and I think this is probably why she was not able to perform at her highest level, and or if you want to believe that she was able to perform even better because of this incident. Were you or were you not paying attention to her between rounds 2 and 3, I believe is what it was.
No, but I'm seeing something in the chat that might be informing this. So is that what we're talking about here?
She had a Zen pouch in her mouth in between the rounds.
Yeah, that seems very, very illegal. Is that not illegal?
Whether nicotine is performance enhancing, whether or not it made her worse or better,
For an object, either way. I mean, like something that's external to the fight. I got to imagine that's not okay.
I agree with you, but my thing is like, in this sense, in this context, who's stopping anybody from drinking a beer at, before their fight at this point?
You're
Like,
exactly right. Or chugging a Red Bull or doing any kind of stuff between rounds if that's the case. Yeah, I would think that that would be an investigatable offense if that's true.
so it was definitely, people were taking it as a joke too, like, oh, she's a Chad, or she's doing Zens, like, she maybe she was chewing gum, like, I don't, again, with a mouth guard, like, I don't know. It 100% to me, like, when I saw it happen, I was like, bro, she's got a fucking Zen, like, what the heck, like, what did she perform better on it? No, but did she perform on it? Yes. What do you
Yeah,
make of this?
I would know. I mean, like that's something that needs a little bit more research on my part here to find out the exact details. Because yeah, I would think that regardless of the performance, I mean, just the fact that you're doing that I mean, it almost reminds me of Greg Hardy with the inhaler. Now, Greg Hardy actually is prescribed that inhaler. Like that was an inhaler that he, I believe, had for asthma or something like that. Or something along those lines. Either way, he used it between rounds, and that was a big issue at the time. So I mean, like this certainly would fall into a category like that. I would think that this is a major issue if that's the case.
I am absolutely, I was baffled when I saw it, and but when I think about it, I mean, when you go back to thinking about Patchy Mix, if anybody who smokes weed, if they do it before their performance, or if they do like edible things before their performance, it does have some sort of enhancement to the, it's not necessarily enhancing in positive or negative connotations, but there is some sort of effect. Nicotine as well has some sort of effect, whether it is performance enhancing, that is not necessarily scientifically proven, but it is still changing your brain in a sense while you are competing at the highest level. It's definitely not the best thing that I would say. I don't
Yeah,
know.
no, I agree entirely. I mean, like again, it does not matter if it's a positive, negative, or otherwise effect. It's the fact that you're having it some way, somehow. And yes, I see the comment too. Yeah, if we're allowing Zin pouches, then why not allow Carlos Prates to have a smoke break between rounds? Exactly. I mean, you're exactly right, Johnny. This is a yeah, this is kind of a major thing to me right here. I'm gonna have to do some more research and find out the truth of this.
But it's not a big thing, you know why? Because it's the cute girl who's doing the fucking Zen pouch, dude. She's cool, and she's Canadian in Canada. Why would anybody care about this story? Nobody's making a deal about it, you know?
Of course, and like everything else, it's just the next fight starts and everything just gets swept under the rug. Exactly. You know the deal there. Well, either way, I will look into that though, because that actually might be a video topic right there. Because that's like something that's like beyond the pale to me to an extent. And if it's something that is just now, one person doing it in an isolated incident, how many more times before it becomes a major thing?
I would say it's probably pretty common at this point. I think this is maybe just the first time we caught somebody doing it.
Perhaps again, I'll have to do a little bit more research, but that to the side, yeah, the only things I wanted to say, going back to your points about the actual performance here, saying that Karine Silva won this fight is not that far off to me. I definitely thought it was 1-1 going into the third, and really a lot of what I was noticing that was the major problems and sticking points for me were from Jasmine's side. Like, I thought that Silva ends up in a lot of these positions that like were not necessarily advantageous, but she was making the best out of them and using them to her advantage. And then Jasmine just with these low fight IQ moments. There's one time where Silva had the guillotine, Jasmine evades that, then double legs herself right back into that same position. She's like, she made it work, but it was unnecessarily dangerous. And then in the third round, which is the deciding round, if it was 1-1 going into the third, Jasmine not only nearly triangles herself, but also nearly got herself into a buggy choke. It's like these are very like noticeable problems when you're fighting someone at a high level of jujitsu. And Jasmine's supposed to be a high level fighter herself. I mean, we were talking about how if it wasn't for Manon Fiorot, like who knows where Jasmine would be when it comes to the rankings right now. So, yeah, just those kinds of things stuck out to me. And if you gave it to Silva off of her acumen when it came to the grappling, I would not be all that upset by that, honestly. And really, that comes down to Jasmine's poor navigation, I would say.
I think what's unfortunate is this is when I'm watching this as a fan of mixed martial arts, and I see that this is a fight where not one judge gave it to somebody who's doing the grappling of this. You know, you have the wrestler who's doing not much wrestling, but you have the grappler who's doing a lot of grappling stuff. We don't have the expanded demographic of judges where like, oh, somebody would see the grappling and be like, that's the winning method right now. As me, I'm not necessarily the guy who loves grappling, but I would at least say like, yeah, this is the more active person. This is the person who's trying to win the fight. They are closest to winning the fight. You know, dead archer show, good enough. You know, whatever you want to say. But like Jasmine skates by with all the judges, and not one even bats an eye at Karini Silva. When I think honestly, I think she won this fight. I think she did.
Fair enough. I mean, I'm not mad at the assessment. We'll have to see, about the Zin thing because I see
There
Lachlan
goes
coming in with,
Laughlin.
yeah, another comment about it. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be looking into this after the stream tonight. But yeah, as far as your assessment when it came to the actual action of the fight, I'm not super mad at that, and that's also one of the reasons why I was a little disappointed with this fight. I thought that if you're going to have like a straight grappling affair, then go out there and actually make that work for you. That was Karini Silva's side of the equation not happening. And then Jasmine, a handshake agreement with a lot of these, just saying, okay, well, if you want to grapple, I guess I'll just put my neck right into your arm and let the chips fall as they may. So, Jasmine not really doing that great work up top when it came to the striking. So the only one other thing I did want to mention, this is another just an odd moment here, commission based, but did you notice that after, I believe it was the first round going into the second, or maybe it was the second going into the third, 5 seconds left on the clock and they just called the round early.
I did not notice that. That's pretty funny though.
Yep. I mean, and Silva was in I mean, it was an unlikely submission position, but a submission position nonetheless. So if I was her, I would have been pretty upset in hindsight if I had seen that. I had 5 extra seconds to work and just got those robbed from me. So
Hmm, that's crazy. Yeah, I did not notice that.
chalk it up to another fucking wonkiness in the sea of wonkiness we deal with. But either way, this fight was what it was. If you gained a new respect for Karini Silva's grappling, then fair enough. But overall, I was just a little bit dissatisfied with the over because, like, I guess mostly is because I think Jasmine's better than what she portrayed in this fight, and that let me down a little bit, I would say.
Hell yeah, I agree.
And I'm going to find out about these ins, believe you
Yo,
me.
you seriously should. It's pretty clear as day.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna have to. Yeah, this is like I said. This, keep your eye out because I had a video planned, but now the plans might change. Either way, let's move on to the next fight of the evening here. This was a pretty goddamn crazy one. This was Mandel Nalo versus Jai Herbert. And wow, what a fight this was! I mean, I guess you could say it was a great fight. I don't know if great is the right word, but certainly entertaining in a Benny Hill sketch kind of way. I could hear the I could hear the music going on this one. What'd you think?
This one, I remember thinking that, before this fight came up, I remember thinking all card, like I think I made the wrong pick. And I'm confident I made the wrong pick because Jai Herbert is a really tough debut. And I mean, this is a guy who's had so many UFC bouts. I mean, this isn't just some jobber. And I mean, it kind of is. But, when this fight started, you hear the story, Mandel, this is what they say, GSP's training partner or some shit like that. What they say?
Yeah, he's one of those guys that he knows that he's a little bit later in the game. He's not a young prospect, a young debutante, as they
Yes.
said. So he's one of these guys that's out here to make his name very quickly, and I believe that he is a TriStar guy. So
Yes, so he came in here and, props to him. He looked very, very good to start off. He put Jai Herbert right against the cage and put him down. And, he was chasing him around with these punches. And, Jai Herbert not really known for his power, but apparently he's known for just beating the fucking life out of Mandelo Nalo because that's what happened after Mandelo Nalo had himself a very good run here. And this is this is the beauty of some fights. You know, you have a guy who's not necessarily supposed to come in here and just walk through this guy. You know, he's been here, he's been around the block, and like, oh shit, he's whooping him. He is whooping him, and then out of nowhere the vet just pulls it out. You know, he proves why he's been here so long. You know, he's never had to prove it in that manner either. He's never had to be the guy to showcase like, this is why I'm here. But like, when you look at Larone and Pico, like Larone he proved right there, like, duh, I belong here, guys. Like, I knocked this dude unconscious. Like Jai Herbert, he proved to like, I know not nobody was questioning it, but Nalo, we all had a lot of hype coming for him. He looked really, really good. He looked powerful, he looked fast, he looked experienced. But Jai Herbert has UFC experience. Fuck the TriStar experience, my guys. Like, Jesus Christ, they're over there filming The Cage over there.
Yeah, right. A good point. But yeah, I mean, I think that this was one that I was kicking myself on too, because this really fell squarely into my feelings on debuting fighters out of the Contender Series. You know, you see one good thing on the Contender Series and you don't have any information going into the organization, especially against a guy like Jai Herbert, who has been around for a while. But I caveat that by saying Jai Herbert, as I said on the predictions episode, he's a very perplexing case when it comes to this sport. Like, he's never been a dude who has had like consistent success. He has a bunch of losses that don't necessarily track in your mind as to like he should have lost those fights, but they are there nonetheless. He's a dude who just always has been sort of like a middling guy that has had elements of success, elements of failure. I almost chalk him up to being a little bit of like a younger Michael Johnson to an extent, you know, a guy who wins when he's supposed to lose and loses when he's supposed to win, but it's not exactly that. It's just more of a mixed bag with him. So am I surprised that he was able to get the victory here? No, but I think more just like, I think you just add that into the bag that is so mixed, as I said it was with Jai Herbert. Like, he's just, you don't know what you're expecting out of him at any given time. It can go either way with him a lot of the times. And this is sometimes what you get. Because if you recall in this fight, he was getting hurt. He was getting touched a good amount. I mean, like the whole thing, this is what I said too. I got to feel bad for Nalo in this instance because I felt he was doing the right thing. Language to say continue to advance. He was saying, you know, like he's over there, hands against the cage, he's backing up, he's looking sort of wide-eyed at him, you know, staring and moving off to a different direction. He did that 4 times to the guy. So I'm like, he's on the ropes. This is the exact right time to do that advancing. Pursuing was the correct strat in the moment, in my opinion. But then I guess you can chalk it up to Nalo getting a little over eager. I don't think that that's what it was necessarily. I think he just got caught. It happens. Maybe he doesn't necessarily have the greatest chin, or, you know, we didn't know that, you know, coming into this fight. Maybe that there's more to it than we were anticipating with that. Whatever the case was, he did indeed get caught, and this is the outcome from it. So I feel bad for him in that respect, because I don't think he did the wrong thing. I think the instincts were correct.
Yeah, this was just a really fun fight. It was just a car crash. You know, we normally don't get this was like or Ebo and Evo. This was just a real car crash of a fight, real fun, real just throw it out there and just see what happens kind of fight. And Jai Herbert, man, in Canada, just lighting this dude up. I just can't believe that, and this sucks because Nalo was a guy who I kind of like his image. He's got a little aura to him. But I think it was because he shaved the mustache. You know, you can never shave the mustache and then think you're going to perform at the highest level. I don't get it.
Like cutting Samson's hair, brother. You got to keep the stash. Keep the stash until it's not working for you anymore, you know?
Yep.
That is definitely the case. But yeah, you know, you say Jai Herbert lighting him up. He certainly did that. And then he was pretty animated on the mic, too. You know, I say, Canada, did you like that? Well, no, Jai, they didn't like that. He's the Canadian guy. But,
Yeah.
you know, to what you had said earlier, like Canada was pretty respectful overall. So they gave him a little bit of love, which, you know, appropriate, I would say.
True. Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to the co-main event of the evening here. This is Kyler Phillips versus Charles Jourdain. Now, I want to say this to begin, okay? This Charles Jourdain won this fight. This fight was closer than I think a lot of people were giving it credit for. Now, I had the entire Canadian Glaze squad in the watch along. Everybody was in a little bit of a mood because of the way some of these things on this card put us into, you know, a bit of a headspace. A couple Canadians didn't do so well on this card. A couple of things with the commission, all of that. I was getting a lot of flack for saying that I thought Kyler Phillips did a pretty good job in this fight. I didn't say he won the fight, But I will say that I thought that this was a closer fight than people were giving credit for based on both sides of it. I thought this was not the greatest Jourdain performance that we have ever seen. And I thought it was an above average performance from what we've seen from Kyler Phillips, especially considering how he gasses later in fights. I thought his cardio held up in this fight pretty well. And overall, he held his own pretty decently compared to a Jourdain that was not at his highest. That's my point. That's all that I want to say to that. And Chase, I'll let you get your thoughts out. But please tell me that I'm not crazy for this because everybody was jumping down my throat about this line of thinking.
I think that was all really well said, actually. A lot of those are exactly how I felt. Charles Jourdain did not perform at the level that I was expecting him to, but at the end of the day, I think that is because Kyler Phillips was able to perform at a level that I did not expect him to. He made this a lot closer of a fight than I was giving. I was thinking it was going to be. Charles Jourdain is one of my guys. Kyler Phillips is a guy that I was thinking it was about time that he gets finished. And that didn't necessarily happen here, but Kyler Phillips showed why it's not. He may have one round of cardio, but he is very tough. This is a dude who is not going to give up. He's not going to quit. I was thinking the body shots were eventually going to I thought they were gonna get make him give in. He was walking around real tired. But another good first round of dominance, obviously with the wrestling. Charles Jourdain just cannot get up from the wrestling, is what it looks like from Kyler Phillips. I don't know if this is. He laid on his back for a lot of this and then threatened the guillotine to get up a lot, but I just don't see this being the method that works against anybody else, not gonna lie. I mean, Kyler Phillips is good, but the way that you were doing it, I feel like people are just gonna once they train it once, it's like, oh, I just grab his hand and I pull my whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
I did not think this was the best from Charles. I still think there's more to come. If you want my opinion, I still think Louis Jourdain is going to be the highlight of the bantamweight division when it comes to the Jourdain brothers. But this was a very good win nonetheless. Thankfully, Charles got the win because it keeps him in good standing, while Kyler Phillips doesn't necessarily need a win right now. I mean, he's going to stick around. He's got the Ultimate Fighter. I didn't even know he was on the Ultimate Fighter. He's got the Ultimate Fighter privilege, guys. He will be good. He will get taken care of for now. So Charles Jourdain getting a subpar win is fine. But Kyler Phillips, genuinely, at bantamweight too, having one round of cardio only, it I just can't believe he's made it this far in his career. I think
Well,
that's the craziest part.
that's what I'm saying, though. I don't think that he did just have one round of cardio for this fight. I mean, granted, he definitely did slow down a little bit towards the end, but I think that he actually held up a little bit more than that would lead you to believe. There was a combination in the third round. I was like, where was that all fight? Like he had some decent striking later in the fight that was kind of almost out of left field because what I said about this fight was Kyler's fatal flaw in this fight was all of the control was lacking a damaging offense. Like he was neutralizing instead of capitalizing in a lot of this fight. That's because people were saying, oh, Jourdain is throwing up so many submission attempts from the bottom. That's what's winning in the fight. And I'm like, fair. That I think that tracks. I'm not saying that you're wrong for thinking that, but Kyler in the dominant position. This also kind of goes for Jasmine too, to an extent. Like if you are going to be in the dominant position and you are not doing anything with it to advance for yourself in that on the ground, then you need to be at least landing strikes and trying to make it more active in those positions as opposed to holding and neutralizing. That's where I think that he really went wrong. Jourdain on the feet is always going to be like more flashy. He goes for those jump knees and he went for a rolling thunder himself. He really just be doing shit in fights, bro. That's
I
what we're
know.
like. He's one of those kinds of guys. And it's fun. Look, I like him too. I'm a fan of the guy as well. I just have to acknowledge all the details of how it played out in this specific fight. And I really think that if Kyler had been a little bit more active with his striking earlier, not even range striking, I'm talking just striking on the ground, just the close range strikes, I think he could have had a different outcome potentially in this fight. So I say that to say later on in the fight, I still saw a decent amount of output as far as striking went. He was certainly looking tired by the end of the fight, but he stretched it out. Maybe he's working on that to the point of maybe changing course a little bit. I don't know if I'm correct about that, but in this fight, it looked like it.
Yeah, I just Charles Jourdain. I love the ability to have BJJ in his back pocket. I think it was one thing where he would jump Gilly, and he's very confident that he could get a Gilly and he could do that. But I'm really hung up on threatening the Gilly from the bottom because I feel like again, somebody's just gonna scoot him, and like it seemed like in the moment, it's like, how did Kyler Phillips not catch on to this? You know, like how did he keep letting him get up from this position? And I guess people, in theory, yes, he's got a killer guillotine. You don't want to let him get the grip, but like in that position, even if he did, I don't think he was gonna finish that. Like I don't think it's enough of a threat that for long term success is going to be there. But again, he's always doing a lot of different shit. So he will probably not do that again. But I would just say it's not my favorite move that I've seen him pull off. It's not the most, it worked, but I bantamweight division, you think, I mean, Marab, dude, like, come on. He's going to hold you. Umar, I mean,
Yeah. No, absolutely. And
Batista, I
sure.
mean,
No, yeah. I mean, you're spitting right now. I mean, that's exactly it. And there's a reason that jumping Gilly is the meme. You know what I mean? Now, granted, I'm not saying he jumps Gilly, but you know what I
yes,
mean. It's like there's a reason. It is a recognizable submission, a very common one, and everybody has a basic. I mean, like that's almost at this point and where he is in his career, like the people that you're going to be fighting, this is like 101 for them to be able to recognize when you're trying to set something like that up. That's another note that I had for Phillips earlier in the fight that I thought was a credit to him, was that the early takedown from Phillips, he had some good evasions of the triangle attempts. Triangles are the exact same thing. When was the last time you saw a clean triangle? I think we might have even talked about this on the stream before. I
Puja
think so.
Tamir.
Exactly. I think we had a couple of examples that were like, okay, like, yeah, good, but that kind of proves the point that it's still kind of rare. It's it's very few and far between at this stage of the game. So Kyler Phillips evading a triangle attempt, Kyler Phillips evading a guillotine attempt. Obviously, these things are going to happen. So like there has to be a little bit more. Now we know that there is more to Jourdain, but like if you are not getting what you want out of those, pivoting and making that a bigger strategy, I think just needs to be inherent to his game. And she should not.
He's one of these guys that I can recognize has all of the tools, just sometimes doesn't use them all in the right way.
Yeah, no, I agree with that entirely. And you also mentioned his brother Louis, and you'd said it on the last episode. Why didn't we get him on this card? I'm wondering when we are going to get his debut.
True.
Or his next fight. He had one, didn't he?
No,
Oh, we did not.
no.
Yeah, I think we said the exact same thing on the last. Who I was mistaking him with is Olashechek's brother. That's what it is.
There you go.
Yeah.
Cesare. Nice.
Yes, indeed, exactly. So so we're still waiting for the debut of Louis Jourdain. So we'll see if maybe he has some better fairings as far as all of the dynamics being put together. But I still like Jourdain. I still thought that this was okay. But shout out to Kyler Phillips for a performance that was surprising in a good way.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. And that takes us right down to the main event of the evening, which is Gilbert Burns versus Mike Malott. Honestly, I really did not have all that much to say about this fight. It kind of went almost exactly as I thought it was going to. So, Chase, what'd you think?
I mean, I also really have nothing to say. It says it ended in round 3, but nothing really happened for those 3 rounds, and then it finally just got set up with some punches, and Gilbert Burns fell down, and it wasn't really a sequence that like, oh my god, he finished Gilbert Burns, which he did. He finished him, but it was one of those ones where Gilbert Burns was in a position where if Mike Malott kept the volume up, the ref had to eventually step in, and that's where we got to the point. It's not like Mike Malott colded Gilbert Burns. He knocked him down, Gilbert Burns covered up, and Mike Malott just and that's fine. He got the finish, don't get me wrong. But I think I even said this in your chat. I mean, guys, Michael Morales finished this guy in like 13 seconds. I don't know how long it actually was, but one shot, and it just sent him flying across the fucking cage, and he went and finished him. It, Mike Malott, guys, he might be, I said this about Gage Young, very all around, very basic, generic kind of skill set, can do it all, jack of all trades, but the jack of no trades kind of deal, kind of skill set. Gilbert Burns should have been an easier fight, I would say. Not that it was hard for him, but it should have happened quicker. Like, bro, you wasting all this time. I don't know. And you didn't do
Nah.
nothing in it, I thought.
Well, all right. I mean, I think that I would push back on a little bit of that. First of all, Gilbert Burns, for as much as I've always said, I kind of thought Gilbert Burns was one of those guys who was right there, right at the very cusp of elite, but never could actually reach elite status. With that as the understanding, tough guy. I mean, he's
Yeah.
not a guy that you just put away like, nobody's business, like, a guy that you walk through. So I think that part tracks. and to say that nothing happened leading up to it, I think is also not exactly correct. Because I mean, Gilbert, people were saying that they thought Gilbert was fighting scared. I didn't really think that that was the case. I thought that he was engaging well enough. I thought that he was doing what you expected him to do. I thought Mike Malott stopped the takedowns very well. You know, the takedown defense was good early in this fight, which allowed him to have his striking doing the talking for him. Perfect with that. And then he started to mix up his striking very well kind of over the course of the fight, and that really looked good from like towards the end. Those uppercuts from Mike Malott, definitely money. So, you know, regardless of the fact that he probably is going to be topped out at maybe, you know, 8, I would say. I don't think that Malott goes much higher into the division. I see the criticisms, but
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I would say that because, like, to that point, that's what I'm kind of saying here. I mean, like, I think that Mike Malott's ceiling is right there in the middle of the rankings, if you're even going to extend him that. But like, with that being said, I think you got to acknowledge that the striking, when he is able to have the fight that he wants to have, which is what this was, don't want to say it was a handpicked fight or anything like that, but you get a guy. Obviously, we're going to talk about Gilbert and his retirement now. Of course, this, you know, fight that I thought that he probably should have retired a couple of fights ago. But either way, you're getting a guy at the end of his career. This is the fight that he wanted for it. When he has that, the mixing up of the striking looks really nice. I thought he had some pretty solid boxing in this fight.
This Mike Malott guy, it's hard for me to see it. I mean, he's a nice guy. He's cool. Don't get me wrong, but you know, we've seen him in deep waters of 3-round fights. Give him 2 more rounds and somebody that's not going to get finished by you know, I'm not going to say by nothing, but for 3 rounds, I mean, not much happened here. It wasn't no war. If you give Mike Malott a war and then you tell him 2 more rounds are coming, I still am just not seeing him just pull it out. You know, he got finished by Neil Magny, and that was not necessarily that long ago. You know, like I
Yeah,
still remember this.
trust me, I will never forget that. That is one of the most that is one of the most insane reversals of fortune I've ever seen in a fight, and I that's always a touch point to me of a fighter who just their cardio zapped. You talk about flipping a switch; he flipped it to the down position in that fight. So I will always remember that. But I do think that because of that, it was a slightly unique circumstance. I agree with what you're saying in a broad sense, though. I mean, Malott, he does not give you enough like things to latch onto. Like that's the next guy. Definitely not. That's what I'm saying. I think he caps off middle of the rankings. Like I don't think that he's gonna. Especially, dude, you're fighting in fucking welterweight. It is a Shark Tank right now. There is no way that you're gonna be able to hang with the people above. I mean, it's not gonna happen. That being said, the things that I think he did well were the striking. I think I want to give him a little bit more credit for that in this fight, and it all came from takedown defense of the guy being good at jujitsu. So overall, I mean, those elements of it, like, you know, and Gilbert Burns also passed, you know what I mean? He's one of those guys that transcends just being a jujitsu guy by having the striking that can also pair with that. So at least in his prime, in his heyday. Obviously, that time has passed us now. I'm giving Mike Malott a little bit more credit here than maybe some people are, but don't get the impression that I think that Mike Malott is going on to much better. I definitely don't think that. Also, I think that there's a small portion in people that think the whole Captain Canada shtick is or a vacuum. I don't think people
I
like
mean,
that.
I don't have a problem with anything that his gimmick is or anything. I just have the problem with we've seen how these navigated runs go. You know, we've seen Paddy Pimlet. You know, we've seen how it when he actually gets to the level where somebody is going to give him a 5-round fight. You know, I mean, it got a little dicey for him. Mike Malott, you know, when you look at the people that he's fought, they've clearly been giving him people that are right in the prime phase for him to win against. Neil Magny, again, if you go back to that one, he had lost before that and he was losing after that. Like, I mean, you can't really say too much else, you know?
Oh, well, what I can say is Neil Magny is the goat and a legend, so that's what I can say.
True.
But no, but I no, like I hear what you're saying here, man. Come on, I mean, like Mike, like that's what leading me to my question really is that do you think that they're kind of not hot shotting? Hot shotting is definitely not the right word, but like favorable matchups to maybe build a Canadian star seems maybe a little bit.
I
I don't
mean,
know.
you look at Peyton Talbot. Just 2 fights ago, he lost to fucking Honey Barcelos, you know? It's not that long ago that Mike Malott lost to Neil Magny. I mean, I know, again, I keep harping on that, but, like, they clearly want this guy to be the guy. They're giving him the main event slot, and not necessarily has proven that he deserves that spot kinda deal. I mean, it's just kind of I don't know, Captain Canada. It is what it is, you know.
Yeah, I kind of see it the same way. Canada does need a star, a male star specifically. I mean, Canada has a couple of decent women stars, but I think that the Canadian fans are looking for the next guy to kind of latch onto a little bit. So maybe that's what they're thinking with it to an extent. But I think that they're just really setting themselves up for problems down the line because Malott's just gonna be a middle of the pack guy, and that's just what it's gonna be.
It's not even that. That's not the unfortunate reality. The unfortunate reality for Mike Malott, and this is for everybody who's backing him legitimately, who's the Canadian fans who are going to watch him from here on out. He's got some ass whoopings coming. I mean, that's the unfortunate part. Is like you on live TV, you're going to watch him probably get bloodied and battered, and not necessarily lose. I'm not saying he's going to get bloodied, battered, and just beat down and die in the cage. No, he might actually win those. I mean, I'm going to have to see that out of him. But from here on out, I mean, this is going to be some tough fights. He even said in his post fight speech, like, I'm ready for it. I know that there's tough fights ahead of me. Like that's all that there is, and he's willing to do that. But we're gonna have to see because when you look at Neil Magny, I mean, again, I keep bringing it up. It was a relatively clean loss, but imagine this dude getting like Jonathan Denise. That was a tough fucking loss to come in on debut and just get butchered by elbows.
True.
Um,
Yeah.
Mike Malott, I mean, it's going to be unfortunate for the day that he actually does get his ass really, really handed to him because people are going to act like they didn't see it coming. Like, oh no, that's a crazy letdown. And it's like, guys, we fucking knew, we fucking knew he wasn't that guy, kind of deal. So
Yeah, and that's what I think I'm really getting at too, is that I don't think that necessarily like the Canadian fans are like rallying around him to the point that it's like that big of a surprise when it does happen,
yeah,
you know?
true, you might be right.
So I don't know. I mean, like, look, I would like Canada to have a star. I don't think that Malott is necessarily going to be that for them. It's just going to be one of those things. We're just going to have to see what ends up playing out for him a little bit later on. But as he said, and as you said, and as I've said, a lot of very tough fights ahead of him in this division. And, it only gets worse the more that you try to raise.
Lachlan, I see your comment, and I'm not even going to bullshit you. I think Mike Malott might be one of a few, if not the only, winnable fights for Leon Edwards.
Damn, that's a heavy criticism right
No,
there.
I think that's plausible too, unfortunately. But I mean, we'll see what happens. I think it wasn't the greatest fight that we had on Saturday from him. He won. He won by knockout, and that's that. Shout out to him. I'm excited to see who he fights next because I think the other person is going to have a very good performance against him.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm with you on all of that. I mentioned it earlier, but I think it bears repeating. This was Gilbert Burns' retirement fight. He did lay him down in the cage. Got a very nice ovation, I thought, from the Canadian audience. I thought that this was a very fine send off. Pretty much exactly as it should have been. Guy has 25 fights in the organization. Give him his time on the microphone. Got all of that, and off goes Gilbert Burns. So shout out to Gilbert Burns on the career that he had. Like I said, I always thought he was one of those guys that just was right under that elite level and never quite made it to it. Look, not everybody can. So I can't be saying that I thought that it should have been any different. I thought he had a pretty good career and he's got a decent career in podcasting now as well. So any final thoughts on Gilbert Burns as far as his
I, I
career
I
goes
do
too?
have one final thought on Gilbert Burns, and it is a genuinely good point because Gilbert Burns, out of the entirety of his career, I mean, to me, the only thing that matters is that he is the only person that had made Hamzat Shemaev not only look human, but look beatable. He
With one arm.
with one arm, he was the only person who was able to do that. And while that was welterweight Hamzat, it does not matter because that we saw that dude be just as dominant at any division as he is now. And the only person to ever take the fight to Gilbert Burns or to Hamzat Shemaev was Gilbert Burns. And I appreciate him greatly for that because I always look back and like when I see the clips of that fight, I think like, God, Gilbert Burns was really in there trying to kill that guy. Like he wanted to be the guy to fucking murder him. And it didn't go his way, but damn, he put up a damn good fight. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and took JDM to deep waters too until he turned the tables.
Exactly.
So
I know.
yeah. So yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I don't dislike Gilbert Burns, and I think that he, is a dude who had some really admirable qualities. CTE, who was also not here, was saying on the watch along that he was one of his early favorite fighters because he was a guy who was able to show off some high level grappling, but also mix it with the striking to make it an overall well rounded package that was exciting to watch. And I think that should be his legacy. So for that, I think that he can hang his hat on that and walk away with his head high at the end of the
Hell
day.
yeah, absolutely.
But no fairy tale for him, no easy layup in his retirement. Unfortunately for him, no Nico Price in
Yeah,
his
he's
bag,
not Robbie Lawler. He's not Michael Chiesa either.
or Cub
True.
Swanson. All right. Well, that being said, that is UFC Fight Night. Burns versus Malott. Chase. After talking it all through, what are your final impressions of this
This
card?
was a really fun card. Like I said, I've been doing a really good job of just enjoying the product. We've seen a lot of people criticizing what Paramount is able to provide, with the level of fights. But guys, it's fights. We get fights. We are having a good time. Life is going to go on. It's not always going to be superstars from prelims to main card. It's just not how it works. You got to enjoy the people that are down here because when they're up here, you're going to know who they are. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, like for me, I guess I could class myself as one of those people who is slightly dissatisfied with the product, but I think that my problems are external to the actual fights themselves most of the time. I mean, it's commission-based stuff with reffing and judging and all that kind of stuff most of the time. There's occasionally different things, but that's the majority of it. For me, I liked this
Mhm.
card. I thought that overall, if it wasn't for the wonkiness with the Jamie Lynn Horth fight and the reffing and the Zalesnyakova fight, I was pretty satisfied with the output of this, especially on the rewatch. This was a very easy rewatch, a couple good finishes here, actual substantive, like quality finishes. I thought I was very happy with this card overall. I
That's
enjoyed it.
good. Yeah, I really like this one too, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So good deal on that. Before we move on to our predictions, Chase, would you like to read off how we all did here? You want to tell everybody how deep this hole is getting for your boy Thinker St.
Yeah,
J?
so this weekend, out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 fights, I had gotten 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 correct. I think, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yes.
Well, the Volodine fight is a push. So you remember
Yes,
that, right?
that's a draw. Yeah, no, that one's not on
Right.
there.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha.
Yes, and then so Thinker, you had gotten 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 correct. And so the totals for the year, wow, I didn't know. I didn't know. Guys, I surpassed 100 correct picks for this year. I'm at 101. Thinker is at 83.
I mean, 101 to
It's
83. I'm
not
actually
that
not.
bad. It really
Yeah, I
isn't.
was gonna say I'm within 20. That to me is not the worst it could be. I think I'm slowly potentially making a little bit of progress coming back, perhaps. And again, every week is a new
True.
week. This could be the week. So who knows? I think I need more than one at this point, but that's okay. We got plenty more fights coming up.
And
So
speaking of, we got
yeah.
new ones coming up this week. Yeah.
Oh, these one right here. Yeah, absolutely. Of course, we've got UFC Fight Night, Sterling versus Zalal. Seems crazy to me that this main event is at an Apex. I mean, like Jesus Christ, you got a former champion going up against a hot, a guy who's pretty decently ranked at this point, and one who's been winning pretty consistently, whether you like it or not. Chase. So that being said, Aljamain Sterling, Yusuf Zalal in the main event of this thing. What do you think,
I
my
think
friend?
it's interesting that you think this is a weird fight to be at the Apex because this is, again, Aljamain Sterling, from what I understand, not that big of a ticket as a champ. And when you got him outside of his champ days in a new division where he's at the top of the division, but he's still not selling himself as like the biggest marketable guy kind of deal. He's still just in the mix. Yusuf Zalal, on the other, same kind of deal. He's not the most interesting guy. He's just in the mix. So this being at an Apex, it really doesn't surprise me because these are two kind of boring-ish personalities, and everybody loves the big personalities. I don't have a problem with them being in the Apex. It's a fight to me. Doesn't matter the location. It's competition. What I will say is, I think this is maybe playing into Yusuf Zalal's fairy tale, story to a belt here. I think somehow, some way, I don't believe Aljamain Sterling's going to lose cleanly. I think there's going to be some sort of circumstance that's going to make me believe that Yusuf Zalal wouldn't have won if Aljo would have blank. So I want to give Yusuf Zalal the nod here, even though I want to believe that Aljamain should, would, could do everything correct to win this fight. I think there's just going to be some sort of asterisk that I'm going to throw out there for Aljo losing this one. I don't know.
Ah, my gosh. I cannot believe this Yusuf Zalal hatred just bubbles over and continues out of you. But what I meant by this, I would think that this would be a very solid middle of the main card for a numbered event, is what I kind of class this as, especially since we just saw Gilbert Burns and Mike Malott in a main event. But that being said, uh, yeah, I mean, I'm also going for Yusuf Zalal in this fight, mainly because we've been seeing consistently good things out of him. You can say the Calvin Cater fight was not the type of fight that you'd want to see. He got the win out of that fight. I thought it was savvy navigation. You want to call it running. We don't have to relitigate all of that. But the point is that there was that. There was the ridiculously fast submission of Josh Emmett. Also kind of a little bit strange, but a win nonetheless. These are consistent wins that this guy has been getting after what has been, I mean, really, if you track the history of Yusuf Zalal in his second stint in the organization, which we have seen every single one of those fights on the watch alongs at this point. I remember his very first fight back, which I believe was Billy Quarantillo, if I'm not mistaken. We watched when I was still with Vitz King over at doing the watch alongs with him. And, like consistently now, we have been seeing really high level improvements out of this guy one way or another. Again, whether you like the navigation or not, that's up to your discretion, but does it get the win? That's what we've been seeing. Aljamain Sterling's is kind of a guy that is consistently baseline. You know what I mean? Like I've always kind of thought he is definitely a high level wrestler and grappler, but that is about as topped out as it gets. He also had the very weird and wonky fight with Brian Ortega recently. That's, just kind of in the mix there. It didn't like move the needle in any way. The fight with Movsar doesn't really move the needle in a positive direction for him. Like these are just all of those things that like kind of create the current version of Aljamain Sterling post victory, or excuse me, post championship run. Yusuf Zalal is, stock is going one direction. Aljo stock is not necessarily going down, but it's just kind of a straight line, more akin to a flat line than a progressive one.
Yeah. So who you got in this one? What was the final verdict? You're taking
Oh,
Yusuf Zalal.
Youssef Zalal all day. Yes, absolutely. I've been high on the guy for quite a while. I think that he is an exciting fighter. Especially when he has the fight that he wants. I think he is a definitely credentialed enough grappler to hang with Aljo in these kinds of situations. He's also much faster than Aljo, I would say. So yeah, I'm taking Youssef Zalal.
I want to just pick different just to make it interesting, but I won't. I'm going to believe in Yusuf Zalal. I think he'll get this one done.
All right, fair enough. Then we are in lockstep on this one. If that changes, we are streaming to our individual channels. Guys, make sure you go to the stream who has the better takes and hit that like button on that stream.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys, of course, for rocking with us all night.
Oh, hell yeah, absolutely. And all right,
Tyler
next up
Betts,
in the
shout out,
co-main
man. So
event.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh,
Tyler, appreciate you for stopping by. I wanted to give you a shout out before we continue.
super, super shout out to Tyler Betts and of course Johnny the God who continues to rock with us and
Yes.
Lachlan. Appreciate all you guys. So next up in the co-main event, your girl Jocelyn Edwards got a big test in front of her with Norma Dumont. What do you think?
Big test in front of her is hilarious. The girl who's never finished anybody in her career. Yeah.
She split Irene Aldana's forehead to the size of the Grand Canyon.
It was a unanimous decision though, so it's fine. Yeah, I mean,
I saw, the unanimous decision plus 18 pints of
no,
blood.
but she has 2 submissions on her resume, so I'll give her that. She actually has finished people, but the fact is she has not done it in the UFC. She's 100% on decision rates, and Jocelyn Edwards is on a mean killer, finish streak right now. So I think it will balance out that Norma will be able to get this fight to decision because she seems to be tough, I guess. I mean, she's made it all the way to the decision before. No reason for me to think she won't do it again, but I'm obviously going to take Jocelyn to come out here and win those rounds. I mean, she's just next up, guys. I mean, she wants the belt. Panamanian Devil is what I'm going with right here.
I like it. I would be remiss and inconsistent myself if I did not also go with Jocelyn Edwards. She has proven to me that Jocelyn Edwards is the example that I look at when I say a fighter has every fighter. This goes for literally every fighter on the roster. If me and Chase are on this show and we're talking negatively about a fighter, they have the opportunity every next fight thereafter to change my mind. Jocelyn Edwards is a fighter who has done that. And
Absolutely.
it's one of those things that if I'm going to be consistent in my viewpoint of that, I think that I have to go with Jocelyn Edwards. You're exactly right. She's been doing great things. She broke the collarbone of Nora Cornell and then submitted her afterwards. I mean, she's been on a tear finishing fights. I mean, again, women finishers, got to take note of that. The only thing I'm worried about with Jocelyn is the weight cut, because she has had problems with that. Not a problem in her last fight, though, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken,
no,
right? Am I
she
right?
looks like she slimmed down a lot, so she's making weight a lot more easily now, and I really appreciate her for that. And yeah, I don't see this being that hard of a test. I think this will be very easy for her. Jocelyn Edwards is just my girl, you know. I don't know what else to say, guys.
Yeah, no, and one that has changed my mind.
Mm.
I'm certainly a person who is malleable in that way. If you prove to me that I need to change my mind, I will do that, which I wish more people had that ability. But either way, Jocelyn Edwards has done it, so I too will take Jocelyn Edwards to win this
Hell
fight.
yeah.
All right, going on down the line here. This is a decent one, I would say. Rafa Garcia versus Alexander Hernandez. Hernandez, another guy who I think is possibly changing some minds, perhaps. I mean, a dude who, inconsistent is what I would have classed him as before. I know Chase would say perhaps that the judges certainly seem to like him, and whether that is however you factor that in is up to you. But a dude who has finished fights, has been looking much better in recent times than I think almost he ever has, to me at least. Going up against Rafa Garcia, who is a dude who kind of flies under the radar, but I would say somewhat inconsistent is what I would class him as well. And still inconsistent would be my classification.
Yeah, I think this one's very easy for me. I'm going to take Hernandez, of course. The judges will definitely give him the fight, even if it gets there. But if it may not, and he's somehow tapped into a new form and he actually does continue this finish streak that he's on, I don't think I want to be as surprised. I mean, people have always been when it comes to Hernandez, every time his fight week comes around, before he obviously went on this finish streak, everybody would always describe him as like, this was the dude that was gonna beat Islam, but he didn't live up to it. It's like, okay, we're actually seeing him pan out into something, not what you guys thought he was going to be, but what he's panning out to be is still a decent fighter. Rafa Garcia is also decent, but he's coming off of a bout against Jared Gordon. He won by KO, but they gave him Jared Gordon.
And that was the fight that Jared Gordon got ran
There,
over in,
yeah,
by the
there
way.
you go. So the point is, Hernandez is obviously getting some sort of favorable treatment when it comes to matchmaking. They're giving him opponents that he's rightfully supposed to be beating, and they've been doing that for a while. He just sometimes loses against those people. That's why they keep giving him people like this. But like, he's gonna go ahead and beat Rafa Garcia, is my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, looking at Rafa Garcia's record, he is only he's 4-1 in his last five. So I mean, it's not as inconsistent as maybe I was making it seem. But if you go down the list of some of these people, Mahashate, who just we were talking about, this is the loss that Gage Young picked the knockup off of. Clay Guida in his, if not his final fight, then very close to it, knocked out by Grant Dawson. Come on. And then Vince Pichel, another guy on the end of his career, and Jared Gordon after getting run over by a car.
Yes,
So I mean, come on, guys. I think that the record kind of it sort of explains itself if you break it down. I'm also going for Alexander Hernandez on this
hell
one.
yeah.
All right. Next up, oh my God, my guy Davey Grant is back, and who do they have him up against? But the other half of the fight of the year last year, potentially on the Contender Series, Mr. Adrian Luna Martinetti. What are you thinking here, Chase?
This is one of my favorite prospects of all time. I'm not gonna lie, guys. This fight right here has banger written all over it. If Davy Grant somehow pulls off the veteran upset, this will make me sick because I think Martinetti is one of the most, if not the most, skilled offensive weapon that I've seen in the octagon on Contender Series, and for what it's worth, a lot of what I've seen in the UFC octagon. This dude, he can put a pace, he has the cardio, he has the tools, he uses them all correctly. He has heart, I mean, he everything he showed in that Contender Series fight. It's like, again, it goes back to being South American, having this record that is so elusive, or illustrious is a better way to say it. 17-1 coming into the organization. He's got great things to offer, guys. I cannot see him losing this fight. Davy Grant coming off of a knockout as well. I'm taking him. I'm taking Adrian.
Yeah, so you tipped the hand on my thought process here a little bit with that last statement. I like Davy Grant a lot. I think that Davy Grant has really really good boxing. I would say that he has some of the more impressive boxing. Get British boxing. Him and Nathaniel Wood both in that same category to me. Really sharp hands, very good footwork, and all that kind of stuff. However, the issue becomes that granted, he got caught with something that was a little bit unconventional. That was a flying knee by Jourdain, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken, was that last
and then
knockout.
subbed,
So,
by the way, I got it wrong. Yeah,
of
he subbed him.
yet another one, but you know how that
Yeah.
got set up. So, it tracks. The issue is that Martinetti has the flying knees power in his hands. You know what I mean? And so, like, the only thing I will say, and the only thing that kind of like gives me a little bit of pause about Martinetti is what we just saw out of Vologdin in his fight. Now we see that Vologdin is a guy who can take a lot of damage. He will meet you at your level. So he's not necessarily like going to give you the same intensity of the fight. But I think that if Martinetti can come out strong, hopefully he will, then he's going to be able to put the pace on Davy Grant and incrementally take over the fight, is what I'm thinking is going to happen. So for that reason, I too am going to take Martinetti with the caveat that Davy Grant, as the veteran, could once again make me, this could be Jai Herbert versus Mandel Nalo all over again. But in this specific instance, I don't think it's going
Taking
to.
Martinetti.
I
All
am.
right.
Yes, I am going to.
All
I'm
right.
going to take Martinetti.
This will be good.
All right. I know. Hopefully we switch up a little bit at some point here. I don't know if it's going to be this one though. Montel Jackson is taking on Hani Barcelos, our old king over here, the unranked Hani Barcelos. After all of these victories, we talked about that last year.
Yeah, I will not lie. When the last performance between Montel Jackson and Figueiredo, is that what it was?
Yes.
That was one of the worst fights I've ever seen in the UFC. They did absolutely nothing, and Montel Jackson looked absolutely horrible. And the fact that it was a split decision, I believe, made it even worse.
Was it? I don't even remember that part. Was that what it was?
I think so. But either way.
Yeah, you're right. You're correct. Yeah, it was a loss
Gosh,
too.
yeah, yeah, exactly. This one is easy for Honey Barcelos. I mean, I'm not even gonna. I have to explain. I mean, Martel Jackson. One notable thing he did was knock out Demont Blackshear, but that was a couple years ago now. So he needs to either get in with something that's good or get out. Honey Barcelos has a rank that he needs.
For fuck's sake, I mean, like it really goes back to exactly what we were talking about at the year-end wrap-up, where Hani Barcelos it just overlooked, I guess, because of the age or the lack of excitement in the fights or whatever you want to say it is. But I mean, the record it's screaming for a ranking. It's criminal that he is not ranked currently. I think it's a major disrespect to this guy who's putting in the work to do exactly what needs to be done for a ranking. So with this fight, I think it should absolutely happen. He has grappling, which is going to be a problem for Jackson, which Figueiredo should have done, but did not in that fight, if you recall. So, I mean, like Figueiredo just made that fight a little bit more boring because he wasn't using all of his tools. I am confident that Hani Barcelos will use all of his tools. For that reason, I too am going with Hani Barcelos. And we once again, I thought you were going to take the Montel Jackson bait because of the knockout power, but I don't think he's going to have that. I don't think that's going to happen
No,
here.
I'm definitely not taking him. I'll take my boy Ronnie.
All right. Hani Barcelos gets the nod from both of us. Oh my God, yet another one I think we're going to be the same on here because it's Marcus Buchecha and he's fighting Superman Ryan Spann. What do you think?
Ryan Spann all the way. I'm not taking Buchecha. I'm not taking the BJJ
God
nerds
damn it.
anymore, dude. I mean, Ryan Spann is not somebody who's necessarily that good. But from my point of view, if you want a quick rundown, the second fight against Anthony Smith, when they had the rematch, I personally thought Ryan Spann won the fight. I saw Anthony Smith curled up in the cage, not really doing much of a winning performance, but whatever. And his eye was all jacked up. So Ryan Spann won that fight, in my opinion. And then he goes to he moved to heavyweight, and then I'm trying to think, what did his debut at heavyweight look like? Oh my gosh, knocked out by Waldo Cortez Acosta. That's correct. Oh my goodness. Gosh. Either way, I'm taking Ryan Spann. I'm not even going to think about it too hard. I can't take Buchecha.
I mean, that's really what it comes down to me. I don't like Ryan Spann's record is almost irrelevant. We've seen what we've seen out of Buchecha, dude. I mean, granted, he had the fight with Kennedy, which was a very, very strange fight, if you recall. Kennedy just looking out of sorts when he was supposed to be the light heavyweight going up to heavyweight that was going to make it like that light
True.
heavyweights could do that. So really, it was Kennedy who was the letdown in that fight, but Buchecha looking exactly as he had. I mean, this is the guy who lost to Martin Boudet over here. I mean, like, like we got to acknowledge like Buchecha with all of those great, again, we go back to the Chanel Dyer, and Chanel Dyer is the unfortunate example because she has proven herself to be better than this, but she's still unfortunately the example that we have. Sad for her, but you see all of the accolades, you see the wall and surrounding them in the picture, and you've got every single gold medal that you can possibly have, and it does not equal up to a mixed martial artist. That is what you must recall here. Marcus Buchecha is a credentialed grappler to the highest order. And if this was the CJI or UFC BJJ, maybe this would be a different conversation. But this is mixed martial arts, and this guy just does not cut it as an MMA fighter. He also does not have the cardio to be an MMA fighter, which has consistently been a problem. He's a big heavyweight and not one that moves well enough for that. It's amazing to me that he was able to get the accolades as a grappler. Yeah, I'm not saying that he didn't do it, but I'm saying it's crazy trying to apply that to MMA.
Yeah.
Ryan Spann, this dude's been around for so goddamn long. This dude, he is seeing it all. He has seen at least enough of the BJJ that's going to be coming at him to be evasive enough to get out of that. He's probably going to be able to wrestle pretty well with him, stay on his feet for a good amount of this fight. I think that Ryan Spann takes the victory.
Hell yeah, good pick.
All right. We got to see where they come here to figure out if anything's going to change between us. But Rodolfo Vieira is fighting Eric McConaughey. Good Lord. Why does this fight exist?
I can't tell you, but I know Eric McConaughey got knocked out by Sir Sakayev, and Rodolfo Vieira got knocked out by Bo Nickel. So you really just got to pick one. And I got to take Vieira because listen, Brazilian guy who's got veteran. He doesn't necessarily have the veteran experience by record, but he's an elder in the game, and he's Brazilian. He's got jiu-jitsu in his back pocket. He looks like he could probably pack a punch. I've only seen him a few times, and of course, Bo Nickel fucking knocked him out, but I'm still gonna take him here. Rodolfo Vieira, let's go.
Oh my God, I was hoping that this would be the one that we were going to differ on, but I too have to take Vieira, and not because of anything that he has done, but because I have never been sold on Eric McConaughey. I go back to the Nursultan Ruzaboev loss, then a split decision win over Cody Brundage. If you recall that fight, that was you want to talk about a wonky fight. That was certainly a display between the two of them. Cody Brundage being what he is on top of that. McConaughey just has never screamed UFC caliber fighter to me. Vieira at least has come a little bit closer to that than I've seen out of McConaughey. So for that reason, yet again, I also must fall in line and take Rodolfo Vieira.
Hell
yeah. All right. Oh my goodness, what a fight. I love this one. Okay, Jackson McVeigh. Jackson McVeigh is fighting Cedricus Dumas, the Florida man versus is Jackson McVeigh's the Moose?
Yes.
He's the Moose. All right, so the Moose versus Florida man. Lay it on me, Chase. What are your thoughts on this one?
Guys, if you don't remember, Jackson McVeigh, I mean, he put on a bigger beatdown on Zach Reese than Michel Pereira did, and Michel Pereira left his face looking pretty fucking beat up. But Jackson McVeigh, in that first round against Zachary Reese, I saw a very hungry fighter. I thought I saw somebody who was willing to do some crazy shit to finish the fight. Now, Zachary Reese showed his toughness in that fight and showed his skill set that he was able to get the fight to the ground, get the submission, later in the fight. Cedricus Dumas is not that. I think Jackson McVeigh puts on a very underrated performance here and probably finishes Dumas in round one.
Damn, that's a heady prediction right there. I have been Cedricus Dumas is an interesting case. I mean, outside of the cage, even more interesting, of course. But putting all of that to the side, Cedricus Dumas was a guy that at one time I would have said I thought that there were much better things coming in his future, and then incrementally over time we have seen wonky fight after poor performance after crazy different thing happening here and there. It has always led up to Cedricus Dumas being a letdown, and that is just it hangs as a cloud over this guy. Plus, if you do want to factor in the outside of the cage stuff, how does that play into him being able to actually win a fight at this point? I mean, this is the dude who got manhandled by our guy Dante Johnson, and then Dante Johnson went out and had a skin of his teeth win performance thereafter. True. I mean, it's very hard for me to put any real stock into Cedricus Dumas. And like you said, Chase, I mean, Jackson McVeigh, even if he did lose against Zachary Reese, he put up quite a performance before that. That really was the fight that I thought was going to be the turning point for him. But I think Zachary Reese is a little bit better of a fighter than sometimes he gets credit for, even with the losses that he has. So for that reason, yet again, unfortunately so, we are going to be in lockstep on this one. God damn it, we are going down the line this week, but I too am taking Jackson McVeigh. I think that this should be a coming out performance for him. And eventually it's going to lead to Strikas Dumas being on the chopping
Yeah,
block. I mean, I think that that's where we're trending.
100%. No, I agree with you. But I mean, Jackson McVeigh, go ahead and get this one done and get him out the league, buddy.
And as also you have, I would factor in as well, and I know that this is not necessarily something that a lot of people also factor in, but I sometimes do. Jackson McVeigh, the way that he fought in the last fight signaled to me that he wants to be in this organization. He has to win this
Yeah,
fight now, because if he loses this fight, there's nothing left
true.
for him. So I would say that, if your back's against the wall, you come out and put on the best performance that you possibly
Hell
can.
yeah.
All right. Oh, look who's back. Myra Bueno Silva is back, and she is fighting Michelle Montague. What are you thinking here?
What I think is interesting. So Michelle Montague didn't speak out to me as somebody that I've seen, but she did compete in the UFC once at the Alberg and Reyes card in Australia. Um, she had a performance against Luana Carolina, and I want you to listen to the scorecards here. 29-26, 30-25, 30-26. So maybe she's very, very good. Like I can't remember too much, but those are some pretty hefty scorecards. I don't remember if these are like take 2 points away kind of deal, but maybe a point was taken if we got a 29-26 there. I mean, I don't know.
A 30-25, that is an insane thing to
So
hear.
if MBS is as bad as we know she is now, maybe it's just her time. But I have a feeling, and I hate to say this, I have a feeling if we say Michelle is going to win this one, we would potentially end up seeing the worst fighter ever, and she ends up losing to MBS. But I'm not going to fall for it. I'm going to take Michelle. I'm not going to overthink this one too much because MBS, we know what we've seen, and even if her best day is just not that good anymore.
I mean, like the thought process is what's killing me with all of this, because it's tracking too well. You know what I mean? Like, Myra Bueno Silva was a fighter at one time who challenged for a belt. Since then, we have seen possibly, we've talked about her
Mhm.
specifically on this show before, having one of the most dramatic backslides that we have ever seen in the women's divisions, I would say. I mean, like, she has gone from such the high to such the low. And the thing that really pushes me over with this thought process is the loss to Macy Chiasson, because Macy Chiasson is also a woman who has had a traumatic backslide. That being said, I mean, you add those things together, it's hard for me to put any stock into her winning. And this is exactly what they want to try to build up a 7-0 prospect, is give them somebody who had at one time been that caliber. Let them make a name off of it. I mean, I got to go back and watch that fight again, the one that you're talking about now with her and Luana Carolina. Now, Luana Carolina also terrible. So, I mean, it tracks that she would be the fighter that would be on the other side of that. But that being said, I mean, like, I do want to refresh my own memory here, because I do remember her winning and being good, but I didn't remember it being that dramatic of a victory like that. But all of that being said, yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to put any stock in Myra Bueno Silva at this point, by design, by her own making here. I mean, she has had too many missteps, too many fumbles. Her title fight fucking sucked, if you
Mhm.
recall. I mean, it was, so like all of this stuff is equaling up to a person that, if they're trying, if they are strategically trying to infuse fresh blood into the division, Myra Bueno Silva is the person to make that happen. It seems like at this point, too many factors going against her. I too will take Montague. God damn
All
it.
right. Jesus Christ.
All right. God, it's just all of them, all this entire card. I really want to be like getting out of lockstep. I'm going to go first this time. Maybe
All
this
right,
will be
go
the
for
thing
it.
that'll do it. All right. So Jafil Filio is fighting Cody Durden. Cody Durden has lost so many of his recent fights. I mean, is it 1-4 in his last
Yep.
five? And I think one on top of that, I think he's 1-6 actually in his last
Mm,
seven.
nice.
So yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think that that's what it is. If there might be another win in there possibly, but if it's not 1-4 in his last five, then it's
It's
one
one
in
and eight.
five, 1-8 in his last nine.
One, two, three, four, five, six, or one and I don't know how to fucking count. 1 and 7? Yeah, 1 and
One
7.
and seven. I mean, come on, guys. Like, Jafil Filio is a dude who is pretty crafty on the ground. Uh, Striking's not necessarily there. That would be Cody Durden's best bet, is to try to knock him out, but he's too fast for that, I would say. Cody Durden on the slower side of band. Well, this is actually a catch weight for some reason. Do you know the reason there?
It's short notice. Cody Durden
Oh,
just
because
stepped
short note.
in.
Right. That is, you are correct about that. Yeah. Cody Durden on short notice. Yet again, that's another thing, too. Cody Durden, a lot of those losses, or at least a couple of those losses, I want to say more than one, were short notices. He's the guy who will fill in at all times and then loses at all times when he fills in. It's, again, he's another guy that is just too risky to put the bet down on him. The record is 17-10 at this point. I mean, come on, man. Like, Cody Durden just does not have the juice anymore. He probably should not be in the organization. Jafil Filio, just a middle of the road guy who's probably going to get a middle of the road victory here.
I'm also thinking the same thing. I think Filio is gonna just probably get a submission, honestly. I think it'll be a little spicy. I think Cody Durden is at the point in his career where he puts his head in a lot of different stupid places. We've seen people try to lock up chokes on him, and he don't defend them all that great, you know? I mean, I think Jafel might be able to just get this one done by submission. I like it.
Oh my God. Okay, then we are down the line yet again here. How about this one? Let's see if this is the one that changes it. Francis Fire Marshall is going up against Lucas Brennan, and this is a contender series, gentlemen.
This is not, I believe. This is somebody who is from PFL Bellator.
Ah, yeah, a while ago,
Yep.
XKO is, I guess, also his promotion. Fury, FFC, and Bellator. True. Okay. Well, I mean, he's coming off of two wins, both by rear naked choke. So, that being said, I mean, Francis Marshall, a dude who I thought beat Myron Santos. I think that Francis Marshall got a bum rep in that last fight, and a dude who I think is better than his record might lead you to believe, if there's a couple of losses on there. What we got? Yeah, I mean, he's 2-3, so that's not great.
Got knocked out
Um,
by Isaac Dolgarian.
well, that was back when Dolgarian was still on his shit. I mean, if you recall, Isaac Dolgarian was a highly touted prospect before he decided to throw his career away. So that tracks to me. I'm going with Francis Marshall on this one, dude. A guy coming in out of the PFL versus a guy who has shown me decent consistency, good striking, good all around, well rounded fighter, and a dude who got a bum rap against Myron Santos, who definitely did not deserve it in that fight. I'm taking Francis Marshall. You got to prove something to me, Mister
Yes,
Brennan.
absolutely. Now, oh yeah,
That's
no, that yeah, I
okay.
agree. Oh yeah, no, Francis Marshall is definitely going to get this one done. I have nothing to say about Lucas because I haven't seen him be able to prove anything. You know, Francis Marshall has proven talent against UFC level competition. He's going to go ahead and easily win this one. I'm pretty certain about this. I have no doubt that Lucas is going to be some probably not the greatest talent that we've seen. It's probably another short notice fill in ish because this fight had like 11 fights like 4 days ago. So
Ah, all right. Well, I mean, no worry about the
now
submission.
I'm not worried about
All
it.
right.
Francis got this.
All right. Well, then we continue to be in lockstep
This one
here.
will be different. I'll
Fight.
let you go first.
Okay. Talita Alencar is going up against Julia Pilastri, and I think I can see where the differences might lie. Pilastri is the psycho for a reason. You know, she's a pretty tough. She's a gritty fighter for a lady, I would say. She's a fighter. Maybe at times in the past might have played with her food a little bit for some people's liking, but I think that she showed that she was able to accomplish that, and I think that that's what really stands out to her, is that she is dogged, she is tough, she goes in with a mentality of like a bit of a killer instinct, even if she's not able to make it happen like early in the fight. Talita Alencar, she's not bad. You know, I mean, like, she's certainly a fighter who deserves to be in the organization. I mean, she's 7-1, 7-1-1. So I mean, like, you know, she's definitely in the mix. She's not a bad fighter, but I think that Julia Pilastri brings a level of intensity that Alan Carr has not dealt with before. So for that reason, I am going with Julia Pilastri, the psycho.
I think this is the perfect fight for people to get confused. Julia Pilastri is very good in the third round. She does nothing for the first two, and then she tries to do something in the third. You know, she tries to aura farm and shit, and then she goes for finishes late. That's fine. That's all good and well. I'm okay with that. Talita Alencar, this is somebody who coming off the Contender Series, against Stephanie Luciano, who she got a draw against. She came into her debut, and the cardio just still wasn't there. You would see late in the third, she was starting to fade, and that's where they really are expecting Julia to take off. They're expecting Talita to have just such a dominant performance, and then third round Julia just puts it on her and finishes. But the last few performances from Talita Alencar, she truly has, in my opinion, proven to me that she's made the necessary adjustments to have fight cardio that lasts 3 rounds. 5 rounds is a whole different story right now. But the last few performances, the one before, I banked on her gassing out and I looked like a fool because she looked fucking good into the bell. The fight after that, I believed in her and she excelled past what I believed she was going to do. She looked even damn good, is what I would say. I'm going to take Talita Alencar to have a smooth performance, decision win. And Julia Pilastri, she won't even get to Aura Farm because she'll be laying on her back for the majority of the fight.
So I thought process all tracks. I'm certainly with you in how you're viewing it, but I will bring up Talita Alencar's last fights here. She had a victory over what's her first name? Ariane Carnelossi. Jesus, excuse me. She had a sub win over that. Perfectly fine. I never thought that Carnelossi was necessarily like a super high level talent, but still a sub win. Perfect. Finished that fight. Win before that, Vanessa Demopoulos, a fighter who has been very poor recently, somebody who, at times had been a little bit more gritty, but certainly has proven that she has nothing on the ground. So that's the other win. Stephanie Luciano is the loss, and then a split decision win over Rayan dos Santos, who also is not very good. So I'm just saying, these might not be the level of competition, but you could be right that Pilastri might not be that either.
I
So
did take into account the level of competition that Talita had been facing, but I mean, I can read the names off for Julia if you would like. I mean, for the UFC competition, I mean, her first win or her first loss, excuse me, her first UFC bout in the organization was against Josephine Knudsen. She's not even in the organization anymore.
oh, I like Josephine
She has a
Knudsen.
split decision win against Corey McKenna.
Oh, little Corey, is she not here either?
She has a unanimous decision loss to Lupe Gudinez, who we now know is not necessarily the greatest, and then she has
It's still better though,
it's
but
it's
anyway.
better, but then she has a TKO against Carolina Licks, but, so, I
Yeah.
mean, the level of competition for either of them is not necessarily the greatest. I mean, this is a
For
get in or get out type of fight, so I'm hoping that Talita is gonna be the one pick. I hope you go 11 or 10 for 11, and I go 11 for 11 with this pick right here. I'm excited for it.
all right. Well, I like it. And I'm getting it. Getting all of it.
Hell yeah.
I need the points, goddammit. Well, let's see if maybe we'll be different on this one. Max Griffin is fighting Victor Valenzuela. This is definitely a dude from the Contender Series, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, if you
Yeah, I remember
remember
the name.
the Brazilian guy who was in the military, this is
Ah,
the guy he knocked out.
gotcha. Oh, so he's getting, yeah, you're right. He's coming into the organization off of a loss on the Contender Series.
Yep. Yep.
All right. I mean, easy.
Oh, wow.
Oh, sorry. A little.
Last fight of the night, it looks like we're gonna have our issues, but it's
Nah,
okay.
we're
We're
back. We're
powering
back.
through.
Yes, real quick little blip there. But no, yeah. I mean, this is an easy pick for me. I mean, Max Griffin credentialed. This guy coming off of a loss on the Contender Series, got to go with the tried and true Contender Series thought process here. I mean, Max Griffin takes this fight.
I think for some reason, this is another trick. I think they want you to believe that Max Griffin's just got this in the bag, but he's not that good, guys. He's not
No,
that good.
he's not. I will certainly admit that. I don't think that Max Griffin is a like a level of talent that is tremendously high up. But he did have a pretty competitive fight with CLD, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, no, am I completely out of the? Oh
No,
yeah,
I
he's
don't.
welterweight too. What am I talking about? Who am I thinking of?
Chris Curtis was his last fight, I believe.
Oh yes, it was, wasn't it? Oh, and a loss to Chiesa too. Yikes! All right, yeah, this might be a little bit of a setup here. Lost to Morales as
Yeah,
well.
I'm feeling our guy from Chile is gonna do good. His nickname is Psychosis, so he's got
Yeah,
aura.
this could be a dude who's a sacrifice of the old to the young. But I'm sticking with veteran savvy on this one. I have to. The guy he's, again coming off of a loss, dude. I mean, it's like a dude who's now losing his way into the organization does not scream next up kind of guy. Max Griffin is 20-12. I mean, he's a dude who has seen a whole hell of a lot. I got it. What? How old is this? Oh, he's 32. Yeah, the
Oh,
32-year-old guy too. What's up?
I remember this dude now. So if you remember the conversation that I was having, some people experience is different. When somebody gets knocked down, you can tell if they've been knocked down before. When this dude got knocked down, he scooted straight to the fucking cage. Like, he got knocked down like 4 or 5 times, but he had been knocked down so many times, he was instinctually knowing what to do immediately once his butt hit the canvas. This dude is a fucking Chad. I'm happy with my pick here. I love it.
All right. Well, I will. I'm locking in. I'm going to lock in on Max Griffin, and if he loses, then he's probably going to be out of the organization, and I'll ever have to worry about it again. So,
This dude got his ass whooped by that guy, bro. I'm so excited for him. Oh my god. Like he's actually gonna show out too, because like I just feel like they gave him a table basically, and you're like, go for it, kid. And like if they gave him an opportunity on the loss, like he clearly must be something. He probably down at the PI, who knows?
fair enough. And look, if he comes out here and gets the dub, then again, it solves a couple of question marks, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Max Griffin probably on his way out one way or another. I would say he's definitely at the tail end of his career. He's 40 years old at this point. Banking on a 40-year-old to win a fight is not the smartest move in general. Let Venezuela go out there and make me a believer. If I'm not a believer off of your loss, then make me a believer off of your win.
Valenzuela.
Yeah, Valenzuela.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought I heard Venezuela and I wanted to correct you. Like, no, it's Venezuela from Chile. I don't know why that's so weird to me that it's like close enough to Venezuela but not.
Yeah, no, I actually used to know a person whose last name was Valenzuela back in the day, so I am
Oh, nice.
familiar.
Shout out
There
to
you go.
them.
Yeah, well, and we'll see if we're shouting him out after his fight in the UFC, which you can watch along with both myself and Chase on our individual watch alongs. Of course, you can find me at youtube.com/@Yama Show. And Chase, I know you can tell them where they can find you.
You guys can find me every Saturday watching the UFC on youtube.com/@CP Smalls. And of course, we will be back next Monday to talk about more fights. So you guys just stay tuned. We got plenty more for you.
Always something coming around the corner. If you guys have not seen the review of Bloodsport, please go and watch MMA on Film. Had a great time doing that. We're getting ready for whatever the next thing is going to be. Got a couple of video ideas potentially for this week if I have the time for it. Hopefully, I will have that. Either way, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and on Facebook at Yama Show. Make sure you're following your boy on there. And we will be back, of course, next Monday, as Chase said, to review all of these fights for you again. So until next time, everybody, you have a great rest of your night, a great rest of your week. And as always, fight on.